Sam, we're good to go? All right. It is 9 a.m., so let's go ahead and get started. Today is February 27th, 9 a.m. This is our regular Board of Supervisors meeting for the County of Lake, and we will go ahead and begin the day with a moment of silence, and I believe we have 2 moments of silence.
So we did lose a local Kelseyville longtime legend, Sid Stokes. He was a farmer, a pear farmer, and wine grape farmer, and just a very, very kind and compassionate person that we're going to miss greatly. He was really involved in the community. He was a veteran and was very active with a lot of our farming organizations. And just a wonderful human being. So I know it's difficult whenever we have a loss like this. So just like to send our thoughts and have our hearts be with the family right now.
I'd like to offer a moment of silence for Delbert Thomas Sr., a tribal elder from the Elam Indian Colony. He was one of the very knowledgeable elders of the culture. It was instrumental in building the roundhouse on the Elam Indian Colony, and his family will dearly miss him. This is a very detrimental loss to the Native community. He leaves with lots of knowledge of the songs, the culture, the language, and so I just want to offer a moment of silence for his family.
Supervisor Pyska, would you please lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for those. Checking in with the board and staff. If there are any extra items not appearing on the agenda, please say no.
No.
Thank you. We will move on to our consent agenda items. I'm already going to be pulling items 5.3 and 5.26, as well as 5.4, 5.14, 5.15, 5.25, and 5.29. Are there any other items to pull?
5.4, what else?
5.14, 5.15,
Okay.
5.25, and 5.29.
That's the only one I was going to pull was 14.
Okay, already on the list. Any other items before I open up for public? I'll go ahead and open it up for the public, both in the Zoom room and in the chamber. Any items you wish to pull from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing no hands on Zoom and no one getting up in the chamber, I'll bring it back to the board for action. And I apologize. I looked at the list wrong. I'm going to eliminate 5.3 and 5.26 from being pulled. It's just that they required 4/5 vote, but if we're not pulling them for discussion, then obviously they'll get the 4/5 vote. Apologize for that.
What's that? What am I doing?
Looking for action on the consent agenda, with the exception of 5.4, 5.14, 5.15, 5.25, and 5.29.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and we will get to those pulled items as soon as we can. Let's try to stay on task on our timed items. And up next, we have our pet of the week. Please come on up.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
CAO.
A public comment?
Oh, did I skip public comment? Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Let's go ahead and start with public input. I was at the bottom of the page, and I just skipped right on to the next page. I apologize for that.
Well, I'm not as cute as the dog, but my name is Jason Tarmino, and I'm in charge of government affairs for Pacific Gas and Electric. And I just wanted to come here and introduce myself and put a name and face together. And I'm reaching out to everyone to set up meetings. I have a kind of a unique background for this position. Professionally, I've been a real estate developer for the last 15 years. So I brought about 8 projects through the entitlement process. And then from a board of directors and volunteer standpoint, I've done a lot of different things. Aquatics, a lot on homeless, adult day health, Chamber of Commerce, economic development. One thing that I'm quite proud of is I'm on a board of a homeless organization. Last year, we opened a brand new $7 million homeless facility. $5 million of that was privately raised, and then we got $1 million from the county and $1 million from the city from ERC funds, which we needed because costs went up at the end. And so we'll be talking a lot about Pacific Gas and Electric issues, sort of the standard things that probably we've talked about a lot. But also I feel like my background will help with some of the other major issues that Lake County faces. And part of my goal is to understand what are the initiatives that you all are working on and how can I contribute to those initiatives with my background and skills, et cetera. It's a little bit of a rework of this position with me coming in, but I'm looking forward to partnering with all of you. I know that important things in government take years to accomplish, and I've been a part of that process for a long time. So my goal is to be a good partner. As a basic service provider in this community, we have a responsibility, but also an opportunity. PG&E's been here long before we were born. It'll be here long after we're all gone, but I want to make sure that we have someone in the county who can understand the big picture issues and the minutia of how government works and be a good partner. So thanks very much, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Looking forward to those conversations, and hopefully we don't have to communicate too much in the upcoming week as we see some of the weather patterns coming in. Thank you. Any further comments from the public in the chamber? And I see no hands raised on Zoom. And so now we will move on, and I apologize, to our Pet of the Week. Pet of the Week? I don't know.
Hi, my name is Serena Kopis with Lake County Animal Care Control. Today I have brought Mac. He is a 2-year-old lab mix. He came to us as a stray. We've done some dog testing with him. He does great with large and small dogs. He's good with everybody who he meets. He'd be great in any kind of home. And if you'd like to come see him or any of our other available animals, we are located at 4949 Hellbrush Drive in Lakeport behind the county jail. And our phone number is 707-263-0278.
Thank you so much, Officer Kopis.
Yep.
And we will move on to our 9:06 a.m., our 9:04 a.m. item, presentation of proclamation thanking Senate President Pro Tempore Mike McGuire and the California State Legislature for their support of Lake County's tree mortality emergency response. Supervisor Pyska will take care of the proclamation.
Okay, the Board of Supervisors, County of Lake, State of California. Proclamation, a proclamation thanking Senate President Pro Tempore Mike McGuire and the California State Legislature for their support of Lake County's tree mortality emergency response. Whereas then California Governor Edmund G. Brown proclaimed a state of emergency to exist throughout the state of California due to severe drought conditions on January 17, 2014, and whereas the state of emergency was subsequently on October 30, 2015 for pervasive tree mortality in California and included provisions to expedite the removal and disposal of dead and dying hazardous trees. And whereas the County of Lake proclaimed a local emergency due to worsening drought conditions on May 6, 2020, it says 2021, but I believe it was 2022. And whereas persistent and severe drought result multi-species bark beetle infestation in many areas of California caused dramatic tree mortality in several regions of the state, with the United States Forest Service estimating that over 22 million trees were dead in 2014 and tens of millions were likely to die in the years coming. Whereas tree mortality in Lake County grew at an extraordinary rate between 2019 and the United States Forest Service flyover data estimated 3,000 dead and dying trees countywide. In 2022, when that estimate reached 590,000, with an estimate of 20,000 trees threatening county roads and evacuation routes. And whereas the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection's aerial and group surveys in Napa and Lake counties of December 2021 and January 2022 affirmed widespread conifer mortality, and that current drought is reducing the vigor and health of conifers, leaving Lake County trees vulnerable to further insect attacks. And whereas this growing threat increases fire risk, presents considerable safety risks from falling trees to residents living in affected areas, forested communities, and worsens the threat of erosion across Lake County's watersheds. And whereas the magnitude of pervasive tree mortality in Lake County continues to represent a threat beyond the capacity of county resources to remediate, and assistance is required from both state and federal agencies. And whereas the Lake County Board of Supervisors declared a local emergency for pervasive tree mortality on May 3rd, 2022, and whereas the Lake County Board of Supervisors requested assistance from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services under California Disaster Act, CDAA 2015-5 on July 25th, 2023. And whereas the Lake County State Senator McGuire, understanding the restrained financial capacity of the County of Lake, reviewed this request and was able to secure $1 million allocation to the county to fund project management and support for this event. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Lake County Board of Supervisors is grateful to Senator McGuire, who is now serving as the 52nd President pro tempore of the California State Senate, for his extraordinary support and advocacy on behalf of Lake County, and to the state legislature for recognizing Lake County's tree mortality emergency as a matter of statewide concern. Be it further proclaimed, remediating the ongoing tree mortality emergency is a matter of utmost priority and urgency to the County of Lake and this board, and responsive county departments are hereby directed to take steps to ameliorate emergency conditions to the maximum extent permitted by available resources, passed and adopted this 27th day of February 2024. So thank you for being with us today. This has been a big issue for a long time and something that I've been working on for the past 3 years. We do have, as this proclamation states, we have 20,000 standing dead trees along our county right-of-ways, and that is a public safety issue. And it's been a challenge to get the funding and the plans together to tackle this work, but it's been a long time in the process. Even Trevor was in the helicopter with me 2 years ago when we were surveying the trees. So it has taken a lot of effort, a lot of support through all of Senator McGuire's staff, and Rhiannon is here today, so thank you so much. But we can't start this work unless we know that we have the resources to do it. We do not, our county does not have the resources to do this work. But what we've seen, not just in fire season, but through all these storms, is these trees come down. They come down and they have the potential to really threaten human life. So this is a really critical issue, and we've been working on it for a long time, and hopefully it's coming together and we can finally start implementing this. So much gratitude to our senator, and please pass that on, Rhiannon. And I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, thank you so much, Supervisor Pyska, and to the rest of the board for your kind words about Senator McGuire. Of course, he wishes he could be here today, but he did want me to thank you all on behalf for this honor and say it's an absolute privilege and honor to be able to work with you all and serve Lake County. Since the fires of 2015 and nearly every year thereafter, Senator McGuire has worked hard to ensure that every time this county has undergone an emergency, the state has responded to help, and that includes the dead and dying tree emergency, which this board has led the way on, in particular, thanks to the hard work and tenacity of you, Supervisor Pyska, to tackle this issue head on and help prevent future large wildfires. So the senator, like I said, is very proud to partner with the county on this, and we look forward to continued efforts in the months and years to come. So thank you again. We really appreciate this acknowledgement.
Great, thank you so much.
Any other comments? Absolutely appreciate the support. It's about the partnership, especially since wildfires, as we know, do not stop in jurisdictional areas. They carry on, unfortunately, into other counties as well. And to reduce the threat is to really help out our neighbors and ourselves and our residents here in Lake County. So thank you to the Senator for his work and his efforts and his advocacy. It's like we're taking a picture. You don't see it, but you're in a picture. Any comments from the public on this item? I see no one standing up and no hands in Zoom. And thank you again very much, Ms. Philippi. And we're going to move on to item 6.4, 9:06 a.m., presentation and proclamation celebrating First 5 Lake County's 25 years of service in Lake County. Please come on up, First 5. I saw a board member that hesitated to get up, but we're getting all of them now.
First, it's a party, First 5. Anybody like kids, 0 to 5? Come on up. It's a team here. Yeah, there you go.
Come on up.
Probation, sure. Well, this is a proclamation celebrating First 5 Lake County's 25 years of service in Lake County. Whereas, in November of 1998, California voters passed Proposition 10, the Children's and Family Act, adding a tax on tobacco products to support early education and health programs, services, and resources specifically for young children, prenatal through age 5, and their families. And whereas the County of Lake established a local Children and Families Commission, now known as First 5 Lake Commission, in January 1999, consisting of 9 local voting members. Commissioners represent county government, public health, social services, education, early care, and family advocates. And whereas for the past 25 years, First 5 Lake has been an unwavering pillar of support for the community's youngest members, consistently demonstrating a steadfast commitment to nurturing their growth and development. And whereas throughout its extensive tenure, First 5 Lake has been a driving force behind the advancement of early childhood development, tirelessly working to create an environment where every child has equitable access to essential resources, support systems, and opportunities that lay the foundation for a healthy and thriving start in life. And whereas First 5 Lake provides supports for direct services, notably for parenting classes, support for child care, oral health care, literacy programs, car seat programs, early parent supports, and resources for families. And whereas the innovative programs and initiatives spearheaded by First 5 Lake contributes to the overall well-being of our county through the continuous improvement of systems impacting our families. And whereas the collaboration, dedication, and passion exhibited by the First 5 Lake Commission have been instrumental in creating a community where children are prioritized, families are supported, and the foundation for a prosperous future is laid. And whereas, as we celebrate this significant milestone, we recognize and commend First 5 Lake for its 25 years of exceptional service, commitment, and positive influence on the lives of our youngest community members. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Lake County Board of Supervisors does hereby express our deepest gratitude to First 5 Lake for 25 years of service, innovation, and advocacy for the well-being of our children and families. We celebrate the accomplishments, impact, and enduring legacy of First 5 Lake, and we look forward to continued collaboration in building a brighter, healthier future for generations to come. Passed and adopted this 27th day of February 2024. First 5 Lake in the house. And do we have somebody here from First 5 Lake who would like to add a few words? Not that there are any more words to add, but...
I just wanted to take a moment to thank the board for this proclamation, as well as to thank our past and current commissioners who sit on the First 5 Lake Commission, who have allocated a large number of funds to our 0 to 5ers here in Lake County, and to our partnering agencies who continue to support and advocate for our little our littles here in Lake County. It's our vision that one day the success of Lake County can be measured in the well-being of our youngest children. Thank you.
Anybody else? A past chair? Anyone? No? I'm feeling the love here, but I just want to commend First Five Lake. I ended up as a supervisor on there. I'm chair this year. I don't want to play favorites, but this is my favorite commission by far. They get things done, they're organized, and the mission that they support is so important to our county. Kids 0 to 5 need voices and advocates. I'm old enough to remember voting for Prop 10 back in the day, and I'm glad to see that it still continues to do such a great, important job for our community. Anybody from the board?
I just want to highlight a few of the things that they've been involved in. I know when I started getting involved and First Five stepped up to the plate for the HERO project, was one of the greatest investors into the program. That's continued on as Bloom over at LCOE. That was a parent engagement tool to try and get parents at the table to really understand what's needed, what your kids need in order to develop in the right ways. One of the things that is my favorite, that is an ongoing thing, and I might butcher the name, but it's from the Dolly Parton Foundation. I believe it's Imagination Library. I'm glad I had that right. I didn't make it up. But it's books provided to young toddlers that are born through a certain age. I don't know what the age to 5, and I think that's just amazing. One book a month up till they're 5, and that just expands their library of what they have so that they can learn the textile of moving pages, learning words, hearing words, all of those things that are helping in their development. And of course, your participation and partnership in Smart Start Bright Future, along with Conocta Unified School District, and all of that work is long-term work. You don't see the impacts of First Five until people reach the age, like me, maybe around 30 is when I finally evolved into a better human being. But the impacts are not seen right off the bat. You will see those impacts later on, and it's a work of patience, but it's also a work of love. So thank you so much for what you do in the community.
I guess we got to go over there.
Sorry, I'm right in your way, aren't I? Here we are. Oh, this is good. Okay. Thank you.
And I did not open this up for public. Are there any public comments on this item? I thought that was a comment. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next item, 6.5 or 9:10 a.m. item. Consideration of A, waiving the formal bidding process per purchasing code 2-38.1, as this is an annual contract for services that have not increased more than the consumer price index, and 2-38.2, as it is not in the public interest due to the unique nature of goods or services, and B, a 5-year lease of 26 automated license plate reader cameras from Flock Group Incorporated, 1170 Howell Mill Road, Northwest Suite 210, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, in an amount not to exceed $68,500 per year or $342,500 for 5-year agreement. And C, authorizing the chairman of the Board of Supervisors to sign. And I see we have our Sheriff's Department. Please come on up. Thank you for being here today. Anywhere you'd like to sit.
There you go. Thank you for having us this morning. Sheriff Howe regrets that he has a other commitment today, so he asked me to come in his place. Appreciate the consideration of this. This actually represents an increase from Flock of $500 per camera, and by entering into a 5-year contract with Flock, it's going to save us $13,000 a year. Like, as you said, I believe $68,000 over that entire period. So we do recommend it.
Okay. Do you have any details on Flock? I know that there has been conversations and probably thoughts on the privacy issues. Just want to know, just for the public is aware, how long we keep, who has access to it, and also maybe some of the benefits that your department has seen from utilizing those cameras. I think it's important to see the cost benefit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We are actually more restrictive in Lake County than a lot of other agencies. In Lake County, the only people that are allowed to have access to flock within the employees of the Sheriff's Office are deputies and our dispatch center. Prior to being allowed to have access to flock, they're required to receive training on the do's and don'ts, what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, and it's limited to investigative purposes only. So for the community, mindset is that our deputies are not going into flock and just randomly searching flock video to try and drum up some type of investigation. In order to enter into flock, they have to have a investigative purpose. When they enter into flock, it's required that they enter data as far as an incident that they're investigating or a criminal report that they're investigating into flock, so that's trackable. It's then auditable by Lieutenant Dutra, who is our flock manager for the Sheriff's Office, and then that can be audited by him. Flock keeps that data basically forever. So we can go back a year or 2 years and we can audit that data and see if any of our employees are misusing the flock system. So it's very controlled in that sense. And then we actually only retain our data for 30 days. A lot of agencies we've seen throughout the state of California tend to retain their data for a year or more. We're very restrictive in that. We decided within the department that we don't have a need for it longer than 30 days. If any of the images are deemed to be part of a criminal investigation, then those images are extracted from the flock system, put onto some type of media, and then booked in as evidence as part of that investigation or that criminal report. So that data is gone after, as I said, 30 days. We only retain it for that amount of time. And then I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Dutra. He has some basic numbers on how it's been beneficial to the department and to the county as far as investigations and some of the information that we've gotten off of the flock system and crimes that we've solved.
A lot of the investigations that we've used it for range everywhere from robberies to shootings to homicides to other heinous crimes. It's been helpful in recovering no less than at least $100,000 of stolen property recently, things of that nature.
And just two cases I would like to pinpoint or highlight with the flock system that we've used. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the hit and run that we had in Clear Lake Oaks, where we collaborated with the California Highway Patrol. Flock was very instrumental in identifying the suspect in that case. And then we also had a shooting incident that occurred in Clear Lake Oaks where the flock system was also very instrumental in identifying that suspect and leading us in that investigation and making an arrest in that case. So without those, the flock system, those investigations would have been a lot more difficult, taken a lot more time, and would not have come to a conclusion as rapidly as they did.
Thank you very much for your presentation and your comments. Are there any questions from the board?
Well,
Supervisor Green, you had something? No? Supervisor Pasca?
I'm just so glad that we've been able to expand this program. I was just asking Vice Chair Crandall, did the flock system start up in your district? Or
No,
it was just, you had added with your discretionary funds?
Yes,
Expanded the system?
the share, this contract, I think that they're renewing was the initial purchase for it, and then the cameras that are in the district, in District 3 were outside of that, but they do have complete access to that as well.
So are those cameras part of this contract?
No.
Or are they separate?
No, separate.
So are they renewing with your discretionary funds?
No, this isn't, this,
Oh, it's different.
no, only the 19 are part of the discretionary funds. These are the sheriff's.
Okay. Well, thanks for explaining also the public trust part of this, about how it's not available for everybody. It's not even on your system for more than 30 days. So I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for being here.
We do take that very seriously, and we understand the concerns of the community when it comes to that, and, especially surveillance, and we don't want to be a surveillance state, but it is a very useful investigative tool for us, but we do have a lot of controls, and we want to, assure the community of that. It is a lot of controls to ensure that it's not being misused.
And I appreciate the response. I think the cost benefit is absolutely in the positive. We are able to apprehend people just after a crime rather than having to do a very in-depth investigation and talk to witnesses. If we know what the car looks like, we can find out where it's going just by identifying that vehicle and using those cameras. And I think that's an amazing asset. It gives us a live feed around the county to find what we're looking for. So again, the cost benefit, when I'm looking at all the numbers, when I'm looking at how it's helping in enforcing our laws, it's helping us out, and I see this as an absolute benefit. So looking forward to approving this for you guys today.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, yes,
I don't know, were you first? I think you were.
Vice Chair. Go.
So what I was going to say is, in mentioning that, that was one of the other reasons why I added the other in my district, so that they had more access. They have all around the Highway 20 right now, basically, right? That's what this is. And so the cameras in my district are egress and ingress, so that way they have other options on our county roads in my district, so they can pinpoint if they need anything from there as well. So it was just an extra added deal to theirs. But this was Sheriff Martin's baby initially, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that your department's policies may be stricter than other departments, but that just kind of highlights to me the fact there may be some variation in how this technology is applied around the state. So what type of data sharing goes on between agencies? You put in say an armed robbery or whatever you want to call it, it goes out not just within the county, but to other law enforcement agencies in the state, so that their cameras can come up with a hit on that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we collaborate within Lake County. We have access to the Clear Lake cameras and Lakeport cameras, and then they have access to our cameras, so that we're all on the same page when we're conducting investigations, because a lot of, people that are committing crimes are, crossing into the cities, and then especially with Mendocino County and in Lake County, we see a lot of crossover there too. So we do collaborate with other agencies. We do not collaborate outside the state of California.
So between the 26 cameras here and whatever amount of cameras the two cities are providing, I think it's about 10 or 12 for Lakeport. I don't know what it is for Clear Lake.
Don't know. I don't have those numbers.
Yeah.
It's a good number.
It's a good number. So I guess I appreciate the policy. I'd love to see the policy at some point. Maybe I can follow up with you on that. But this is a tough one. And when I was on Lakeport City Council, I struggled with their cameras as well. So and it's nice to say that this is limited in use and that only justified investigations happen out of this technology. But make no mistake, these are standing surveillance cameras all around the county and in our cities. And even the limited use of this technology kind of signals that we're crossing a threshold into a new age. And it may be a moot point. I'm very much behind the curve on all this stuff. I'm very much an outlier, in essence, because we're transitioning to kind of a self-surveillance state as well, with social media and what people do with their cameras and their home surveillance systems. But this is a big chunk of change for a big chunk of cameras. And I just want to signal that my vote today will reflect that. Thank you.
I understand that, and we understand the community's point of that, and that's why we're very restrictive with our policies and how we control it and how we audit it to ensure that we weren't crossing the lines or that we wouldn't in the future. We understand that. And if anybody wants to see our policy, we have it on our website. It's on the Sheriff's Office website under Transparency LPRs. And then I have a copy if you'd like. I can give it before we leave here today, so you can review that. But it is online for anybody to see, along with all of our policies.
And one of the things that I'm always thinking about when I think of these camera systems is our vacancies that we have at the Sheriff's Department. This is a force multiplier. This helps you with doing the job that you can't do if all we do is rely on people on the streets patrolling. We're struggling to fix that vacancy rate. We work hard on that, but this is the helpful tool to allow you to do the job at a better rate. And so I appreciate what it does. I think it's absolutely useful. I like the restrictions, appreciate the comments and explaining the policy. I'm comfortable with moving forward. I think it's a great tool. Let's keep using it. And 5 years, absolutely. We're not going to make this go away in 1 year, and saving some money is even better. So looking forward to approving this and opening up for public comment and coming back for action. It's a little long.
Mr. Chair, I move that we waive the formal bidding process per Purchasing Code 2-38.1, as this is an annual contract for services that have not increased more than the Consumer Price Index, and 2-38.2 as not in the public interest due to the unique natures of goods or services. Can I do it all as one? Separate?
Probably preferable to do it
Okay,
separately between A, and then B and C can be taken up together.
okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
B, approve a 5-year lease of 26 automated license plate reader cameras from Flock Group, Inc., 1170 Howell Mill Road, Northwest, Suite 210, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, in an amount not to exceed $68,500 per year or $342,500 for 5-year agreement, and C, authorize the chair of the board to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
So what's your rank?
As of January 30th of this year, I was appointed as the undersheriff for the sheriff.
That's what, see, I didn't want to call you the wrong rank.
Congratulations.
Now I have to call Lieutenant Dutra LT.
Oh.
We're going to move on to item 6.6, or 9:15 a.m., consideration of presentation of Lake County graduates from the 2023 NACO Leadership Academy. CAO Parker.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Board of Supervisors is proud to congratulate the graduates from the 2023 National Association of Counties Leadership Academy. They join over 10,000 graduates from across the country who have benefited from the 12-week online program that helps county leaders achieve their highest potential. When I call your name, please come forward to receive your certificate and remain up here for the group photo.
That part's important.
Yes. I only have 2 hands. Thank you so much. Yes, they are. They should be. All right. First is Supervisor E.J. Crandall. Thank you. Supervisor Jessica Paiska. Assistant Assessor Recorder David Schwinger. I don't see here. I don't see him. Social Services Deputy Director Amber Davis. Social Services Deputy Director Amy Szymanski. Social Services Program Manager Diana Duran Paredes. Auditor Controller Clerk Genevieve Harrington. Social Services Deputy Director Kelly Page. Social Services Deputy Director Rachel Dillman Parsons. Social Services Program Manager Tara Gandolfo. Social Services Staff Services Manager Tadora Toshish. Social Services Program Manager Crystal Hernandez. Information Technology Systems Analyst Jeff Haas. And Information Technology Systems Analyst Angel Perez. Thank you very much.
And the last two would be here, but they're helping make sure the meeting is running smoothly everywhere, so that they're hard at work.
Thanks. So I just want to say, part of this program is the curriculum was developed by General Powell, and his leadership principles, I think, did we all benefit from this? Did you? Yes. This is a great opportunity. It's an investment that we're making in our leaders, and if any of our staff is interested in this program, it's incredible. And one of the biggest takeaways is leaders are always learning. We're always growing. We can't stay static. And this is an opportunity to continue to develop yourself. It's not a massive time commitment, but it was really valuable for me. And I encouraged my colleague to take it. I'm so glad he did. And I'm glad all of you did. And are we offering another round soon? Because it typically starts every quarter. So there would be another program probably in the spring.
Yes.
Yeah, so if any staff is interested, middle managers, please reach out to our admin office or your director. And I'm just wondering if anyone else had anything to share from the course to inspire other people to take it. Anyone?
I will, so that maybe someone else. Thank you, Supervisor Pieska. Yes, this was a very important course, I think, especially for everyone that has taken it as well. It reminded me a lot of what I learned in the military, but then more in depth to kind of be able to universally use it in in this government world. So I also like the fact that they kind of pair you together with other people that do the like jobs that you do. So I wasn't paired up with like Genevieve because she did a completely different job than I did and whatnot. So they paired us with people that were more in tune with what we did, and so. I think if anybody would like to take it, it's a very helpful course, and yeah. So, hello.
We have a guest.
Hello, and thank you for recognizing all these great graduates. And Supervisor Pieska and Supervisor Crandall, thank you for leading the way as elected officials, and for all of you. Thank you for investing the time to make yourselves better. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Dr. Tim Rischulte. I am the CEO of the National Association of Counties High Performance Leadership Academy, and I collaborated with General Powell to build this program, design this program, and help make existing leaders better and emerging leaders ready to address the pressing issues that you all face every day. And you know those pressures and those challenges and those concerns much better than I do. But on behalf of all of us at NACO and all of us at the Academy, congratulations on earning your master's certificate in high performance leadership. And thank you for carrying out the great work that you do in Lake County. Lake County, as well as all other 57 counties, so total of 58 counties in California, participate in the NACO High Performance Leadership Academy, and we couldn't be more proud of the work that you do at your county and for all of our friends and colleagues and neighbors that are residents within your county. I myself am just up north of you. I live in Oregon, in Crook County, Oregon, right in the middle of Oregon. And again, we just wanted to say thank you, and we really appreciate being invited to participate in your event today. So I'll hand this back to the board. I just wanted to offer our thanks and our congratulations. Well done.
I was thinking about something I said, and I wanted to just elaborate. They don't pair you up with folks that have the similar jobs. I didn't mean, so like I'm not going to be going to an auditor group. That's what I meant, so I hope that it wasn't taken out of context what I was saying. So just wanted to make sure I emphasized that, so yeah. And they kept you in the region, and your same regions as well, so.
I just wanted to say that I was paired in a group with Genevieve and a couple of others up here, and it was nice to have this opportunity to kind of be in a safe space to talk about things that we normally wouldn't, and I think it was very valuable in that way as well.
I'll just say that, just to reiterate that we're always learning, so anyone who's interested in leadership, it just goes over a lot of the fundamentals, and well, again, it doesn't matter what job you do, it's really addressing leadership in general, so I think it's good for everybody. I'll say something.
So I'm newer to management, and I just appreciate the opportunity to attend this class and to grow in my position by attending it. It reminds you that you need to stop and celebrate your small wins. That's something that I'm going to take with me probably throughout my career. In the department that I work in, the hustle bustle of every day, you forget that that celebration is needed, and it's also going to help you achieve your long-term goals. So I recommend the course to anybody that is able to take it, because it does make you stop and think and remember those important things so that you can share those milestones with your staff.
I just wanted to say that it's also great for people who have been working in this area for an extended period of time. I learned a lot, even though I've been in social services for 27 years. Sometimes people can start thinking more negatively as they continue to work on an ongoing basis. And this training really emphasized how important it is to assume positive intent. And that sort of opened up the doors of remembering why we do what we do. And so I really appreciate the training for that reason.
Well, thank you all, and I think we'll do our picture now. And then again, if you're interested in this training, reach out to your director.
I do want to make a quick comment. We have quite a few folks from social services. I'm not sure if there's a high level of motivation within the department, or if our director had anything to do with pushing some of her staff to join this NACO educational opportunity. But I do like healthy competition. And I think that we would like to see other departments push in the same direction. We can all benefit from growing and developing our staff, ourselves. It's a never-ending job in a personal growth. And so please take a look at this, take the opportunity. It is an amazing opportunity, and this staff has already spoken to that. So thank you very much for those that took that on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Not
Everybody. Yeah. EJ, can you fold this over?
It looks better if you fold the black back.
Yeah.
Like, if you fold the black back.
Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, ready? Here we go. Let me get one more. There we go. Okay, thank you.
And thank you for joining us, Tim. And I believe for Vice Chair Crandall, that's completed CSAC educational opportunities, completed NACO. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Good job.
Chair, you may wish to take public comment at this time.
Do we have any public comment on this item before we move on? No hands up and no one coming to the mic. Again, thank you all very much for your efforts. Moving on to 6.7 on 9:20 a.m., consideration of December 31st, 2023 report of Lake County pooled investments. And we have our folks for this item coming up. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present this today. Patrick Sullivan, Treasurer Tax Collector. I'm here with Carlos Oblitas from Chandler Asset Management. We're aware you guys have a long agenda today, so we'll try to skip to the highlights and run through the presentation.
Well, it's all good news. Let's start with that. So rates continue to be high. Remember that you have a bond portfolio as allowed by California government code. The way that you generate return for your portfolio is two ways. Number one, primarily interest income that you earn. A bond is a loan, and you charge interest on that loan, you get paid for that. That's higher than it was a year ago. It's significantly higher and looking really good. The second component, of course, is the principal can go up and down in value. And that value is generally on paper. Sometimes we realize it by a sale before maturity, other times not. We didn't this quarter. There's a strategy in place. It's a long-term strategy. It generally maintains a weighted average maturity and duration within a range. But ultimately, the portfolio is looking good because it's very well diversified, it's very liquid, and the income, the interest income that you're receiving from it continues to be strong. I want to remind everyone, there are three components to the portfolio. There is a component that the Treasury manages in-house, primarily through the use of local government investment pools and the state pool, local agency investment fund, LAIF. There is a core portfolio that we collaborate with the Treasurer Tax Collector to manage, which is the larger component of the investment program. And then there's, of course, a small side portfolio that the Treasury, your Treasurer Tax Collector, collaborated with us to set up for some of its shortest cash to take advantage of an anomaly in interest rates right now to capture some higher yields for that. It's a temporary portfolio. We don't anticipate that it'll be around forever, but for now, it's filled its purpose. With that, let's turn over to page number 25. I want to talk about the core portfolio that we manage. That's valued at around almost $372 million. Currently, the yield to maturity on that portfolio is 2.86. The yield to maturity is the interest income that you are anticipated to earn on an annual basis if nothing in this portfolio changes. That's up from 2.54, and the reason that it continues to grow is because if you look at the market yield, it's the fourth row down from the top. The reinvestment currently is at 4.72. If that market yield is the yield that you would get for these securities had you purchased it on the date of this report, which was December. And if we have money that matures, or if we have new money in the Treasury, and invest it to this strategy, that's generally the yield that we will pick up. So it infers a reinvestment rate. A little lower than what it was 3 months prior, September 30th, and that's because interest rates were on their way down. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. That's the core portfolio. To give you an idea, the returns on that portfolio, you don't have it on here, but that's something that we do report regularly, in fact, every month to your Treasurer Tax Collector. The return for the year on that portfolio was 4.78%, and I would estimate that somewhere around 2.25% was just interest income alone. So a very strong quarter, very strong year, very strong calendar year, and also the last 3 months of the year were very strong. That return was 2.39, and I would say that about probably 55% of that was interest income alone. If you annualize that number, that 2.39 number, just for those last 3 months of the year, the annual equivalent of that is over 10% return. So in the bond markets, that's a really, really good return. So you're doing well. If we go to page number 26, I think, you can see that yield to maturity just continues to grow and grow and grow. That is a function of two things. First, of course, that there are higher yields available in the market. It costs more money for corporate America to finance itself. It costs more money for the United States government to finance itself because interest rates are much higher. Those interest rates are higher because the Federal Reserve has worked to make it more expensive to borrow in order to cut people off from access to cheap credit to drive prices down. They've been trying to combat inflation. And we've talked about that in various other meetings. But for that reason, that cost to borrow money is higher. You're a lender, the return to you is higher. The other thing that I think I want to highlight is, and we're going to keep it very brief here, I'm just going to select slides here. Rates since the end of the year have come down. In fact, they started coming down sometime in September. The reason for that is because investors believe that the Federal Reserve is ready to start lowering interest rates. A lot of investors believed that the Federal Reserve overdid it. They raise rates to a level that's unsustainable, and eventually they're going to be forced to lower interest rates. Otherwise, if they cut off that access to cheap credit too much, the economy will stall. So they have to sort of rebalance that by bringing rates down. When you look at Fed funds futures, those are futures contracts that we can look at where investors are basically hedging what they think the rate is going to be into the future. It implies a rate. The probability of that rate being lower in March was something like 87%. Since that time, in early February, we've had some events, some news in the economy that tell us that the economy continues to be strong, and perhaps the Federal Reserve does not need to start lowering interest rates as quickly as everyone thinks. That 87% probability of a lower rate changed to about 17%. So you can see things are definitely shifting. We think that the Federal Reserve is going to keep rates at the levels that they are for a longer period of time. We don't think they're going to lower rates until sometime later in the second half of 2024. That means for you that this portfolio will continue to pick up higher yields and will continue to provide higher interest income and will continue to provide the pool participants with higher apportionments, and that's good news. If the rates start to fall, the value of everything on paper will go up, but of course the reinvestment will be lower. If you look at page 27, this is the liquidity portfolio. This is that short-term portfolio that we talked about. Your treasurer tax collector jumped on it, took advantage of an anomaly in the bond markets, and that anomaly is that short-term rates right now, shorter, when I say shorter, I mean less than a year. Those yields are significantly higher than longer bonds, and he was able to, just working with us, we were able to build a portfolio. This one's valued around $52 million, where we're picking up almost 5.5% on these investments. That's not going to last forever. That's going to go away. It's already going away. But while it's here, we took advantage of it, and that's to the benefit of the county. The other portfolio is the state pool, and do we have that? That's actually going to be page 34. So this is a combination of investments in the state pool, local agency investment fund, LAIF, also some local government investment pools that the Treasury maintains, and also the money market sweep. One of the things that your treasurer did was get back to the bank. There's a significant amount of money that the Treasury maintains at your bank account to be able to pay checks, to make payroll, to make money available to participants in the pool. Well, that money has to earn something. He was able to negotiate the use of a money market mutual fund at the bank, which is paying you a significantly higher rate, something similar to the portfolio, that smaller portfolio that we're running right now. So you're trying to earn every which way. We're turning over every rock to be able to earn some money. I will tell you that going forward, rates are anticipated to be lower, as I mentioned, likely sometime later in the second half of the year. That's going to be driven by economic news. Right now, the economic news are stronger than anybody anticipated. For the month of January, we generated somewhere around 335,000 jobs. Only 185 were anticipated. So that just blew the hinges off, or the door off the hinges on the jobs number. It tells you that there's strength of the jobs market. GDP for the year ended up somewhere, for 2023, gross domestic product, that's the way that we measure the growth of the economy, ended up somewhere around 3.15, 3.2%. That's considered strong growth in the United States. Inflation numbers, though still headed in the right direction, still coming down or still elevated. It just means that there's enough economic activity and enough growth in the economy to where the Fed, though they have no more reasons to raise rates anymore, they can wait to sort of wait and see before they start lowering interest rates. It isn't just that. They've given interviews. Jay Powell, the Fed chair, had an interview with 60 Minutes about 3 weeks ago on Sunday, like the first Sunday of the month, where he basically said, we're going to wait and see. We're not going to move immediately. So what does it mean to you? It means that you'll continue earning in a similar fashion. The value of these investments has gone up because rates did fall from September through December, and they fell a little bit in January. They came a little bit back up, but still within range. So we don't anticipate any big shifts. I think I might end with the pie chart for the big portfolio because I think it's important to show that. Page 19, this is a very well diversified portfolio. This is the main portfolio, the $370 million portfolio. Primarily comprises of treasuries and agencies. Treasuries are loans to the federal government. Federal agency bonds are loans to its federal agencies like Federal National Mortgage Association, Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation. You know them as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They help move things along in the housing market. But these bonds are direct obligations of these agencies. There's an implied backing for federal agencies from the federal government. There's a direct and explicit backing for treasuries. So those tend to be the safest and lowest risk. We do loan to corporate America. We loan to, we buy bonds from very high quality issuers. Some of those issuers, I'll just give you some names that you'll be familiar with. John Deere, Microsoft, Home Depot, Amazon.com, Caterpillar, Honda, U.S. Bancorp, and many, many others. Very high credit quality, widely held, in high demand. and we monitor all the credits to make sure that we don't have any sort of credit problems in that sector. That's it in a nutshell. I think looking forward, look out for the shift in rates and sort of the tenor of what the Federal Reserve is thinking.
Thank you very much for your presentation. All good news, as you said. Supervisor Pyska.
It's always a delight when you come, Carlos.
It's always a delight to be here.
So I'm glad you have it on this slide. I was going to ask about this because this, a lot of people haven't been following along with what we've been doing. And so if you scroll down a little bit, you can see where we started before we met you and before we built this investment strategy. And this is where we are. And then it looks like we just took a little bit of a dip at this last quarter, and I was just hoping you could explain that, what that looks like, and then what the strategy is going forward when the interest rates start to adjust more.
Absolutely. So I want to just take a step back and take the 40,000-foot view. So what the county did is they formed an ad hoc committee that worked with the Treasury and the former Treasurer tax collector. So there were supervisors, Supervisor Sabate, Supervisor Pyska, both of you were part of that committee. Your current Treasurer tax collector, Patrick Sullivan, was part of that committee. Some of the staff from the Treasury were part of that committee. Barbara Ringen was part of that committee, and collectively we worked together to set a new direction for the portfolio. The CAO's office was involved in part of that, so there were a lot of hands in that process, but the idea was to, number one, get a handle on how much money the county had. Number two, form fences and parameters around how the investment program was going to be managed. Number three, start diversifying and investing in this portfolio to optimize it for return. Out of that process, the county came out with a new investment policy statement. Out of that process, the county came out with a new strategy for the investments and a way to easily track the accounting so that the Treasury would be able to easily book all the earnings, and then a way to be able to inform stakeholders such as the Board of Supervisors, the public, and understand what exactly is going on in the portfolio. So all those four goals were met. Through that process, interest rates rose. We like higher rates. It lets us earn a little more. That's why you see the growth in the investment. The dip right there, I think, is...
We're still trending upwards in terms of growth, but a lot of it has to do with timing for the different maturities when we receive the actual interest payments from the instruments that we hold. So I think while you're going to overall for the next year see growth, it's possible from quarter to quarter that we're going to see a small decline and realize those gains later.
If I may, the earnings, so the way that the Treasury books their earnings is they look at actual cash received. If the cash has not yet been received, it doesn't get booked, and that's part of that is because they base the apportionment rate to the participants, that apportionment rate that gets paid out, they base it on the cash number. They want to have the cash available. From an earnings perspective, though, there are earnings in the portfolio which you have earned, you just haven't received. That's called an accrual. So this doesn't capture the accrual because the Treasury is more interested in the actual dollars that they can pay out on. From an accrual basis, this is like a hockey stick. It's just upward moving.
Yep. Thank you.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you. On the pie chart on page 19 of the PowerPoint, actually page 20 of the PDF, we went from a 0% stake in the local government investment pool to a 5.5% stake. And we also had a drop in treasuries roughly equivalent to that. So can you just highlight that transaction?
Yeah, I can speak to that. We expanded our use of local government pools. They're a really valuable tool that we haven't previously taken advantage of. While we used LAIF in the past, there's other JPAs that do, it's a similar concept, but they invest their pool funds in the same way that we do. And they were better able to take advantage of the rate increases. So we always had an account at camp, but we used to keep about $8,000 in there. We bumped that up to $10 million. We use CalTrust, which is another JPA. We have about $20 million there now, and they're bound by the same rules we are. Each of them have various government agencies involved, and by using them, we get better liquidity. We're able to pull funds easily out or transfer them in, and so it's certainly been a benefit to us. You see cash, that's everything in the money market sweep. I just want to highlight again that we don't actually hold straight cash in an account. Like in a checking or savings account where we're not earning a return. But yes, the expansion of the government pools, that is money that's not necessarily going. Previously, we probably would have purchased treasuries with those. By putting them in the pools, it buffers our liquidity.
And I can also add to that, Supervisor Green. So these local government investment pools are very short-term investments. So over the long run, they don't provide as much yield as the core portfolio that you have. But if you remember, I said that there's a component, a second component that we built. It was a side portfolio where we bought very short-term securities, and that's where we were getting the 5.48%. The reason that we were able to do that temporarily is because there's an anomaly in the yield curve in the bond markets. If we actually go to page 13, I think we'll be able to see it here. So that anomaly has allowed those local government investment pools to very quickly, because they're so short, they have more maturities coming in due faster. They can then turn around and reinvest that in short-term bonds to get a higher yield. It's the same concept that we're doing in that side portfolio. It's just that the Treasury's taken a diversified approach to this. They're doing this not just with the side portfolio, but they're also doing it with these short-term pools that give them same-day liquidity. So if we look at page number 13, now we're getting a little technical. I promise to keep it simple. The chart on the right-hand side is called the U.S. Treasury yield curve. What we're just simply looking at are Treasury bonds in different maturities from 3 months out to 30 years. And we're looking at what they yield, what kind of interest income on an annual basis they provide on a given day. You have 3 lines there. Those are 3 different days. And normally that curve, we use that curve because U.S. Treasury bonds are considered the safest investment. All of their bonds are going to have some sort of spread. They're going to pay a little bit more yield depending on their credit quality. And of course, the longer you get, the more time that you're leaving money invested, the more you should expect to get paid for that because there's more time for things to go wrong. So normally this curve is positively shaped. And what I mean with that is that the left-hand side of that curve, the 3-month, 6-month, 2-year, those yields are lower. It's lower, and the right-hand side is higher because you should expect to get paid more for locking your money up for longer periods of time. But it isn't. It's inverted. And that inversion of the yield curve is an anomaly. It's driven by 2 major economic forces. One is technical. I won't get into it, but the other one is the Federal Reserve moved very quickly. And when the Federal Reserve moved to raise rates, in fact, you can see that on the prior page, the chart on the right-hand side. It's that hockey stick on the right-hand side. This is the Fed funds rate. That's the rate that the Federal Reserve controls. And they move very quickly to raise rates to combat inflation. But if we go back to that inverted yield curve, that caused the shorter side, the short-term side of that curve, to move higher than the longer end. And for that anomaly has allowed us to capture higher yields in the side portfolio. It's also allowing the local government investment pools to pay you higher yield. It's also allowing the sweep vehicle at the bank, which the Treasury took advantage of, to pay you a higher yield. But as I stated earlier, that is going away. That's an anomaly. There are some macroeconomic reasons why this will eventually go away. But while it's here, the Treasury's taken advantage of it. And we're going to ride that until the ride's over.
Thank you for that very technical answer to my question. I appreciate. This is a very short question. So on the pie chart again, just refresh my memory. ABS and CMO. What are those acronyms?
ABS is asset-backed securities. They are pools of receivables. CMOs are collateralized mortgage obligations. They're also a pool of receivables, but made up of mortgages. So it works like this. Toyota Motor Credit.
I don't need to know how it works.
You got it.
Maybe we can just maybe we could just add them to the legend somewhere. Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. I know that I walked away from our first conversation together saying this guy knows things about money that I've never even thought of. But I appreciate the outcomes are exactly what we're looking for. This is why we're hiring you to do this for us and to take a look at our money. What I want to know is, this is something that I did have a conversation with Mr. Sullivan, and I want to bring it to the board to see if this is possible. We're very much looking at the oversight of the entire pool, but the entire pool is not just our money. And I think it would be good to understand what is our money and what is other people's money. And if we can break that down, maybe not on a quarterly basis, but at least on a biannual or annual basis, and what did each school district receive from this investment pool that we're doing? What did each of the fire districts receive? Just so we can break it down, so we can understand the benefits to all of the other agencies in our communities that are part of the investment pool, and to understand really what is our benefit, because it's not the 3.6 or 3.4, that's the overall overall for everybody, and then it gets apportioned to those individual agencies. So I'd love to see that in the future, just so that we can have a better understanding of our personal benefits and the community's benefits, so that we can have conversations with those agencies to let them know, let them be aware, and just be to engage in understanding what their benefits are with the changes that we've made, because this is not just the county of Lake, this is Lake County as a whole. So that's just something that I think would be beneficial for all of us to have that information, and I think there's agreement on the board for that to happen.
Annually?
Yeah, we could do it annually. Our system is capable of doing that reporting, so it's not really a significant burden. And just for rule of thumb, a little over half generally is to the county. The other half is everybody else, but a large block of that is schools, but just for the ballpark.
But I think most importantly is that this is happening now for them as well. So whereas it wasn't, and so it's a good move. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for the work. And yeah.
Are there any other questions before I open up for the public? And anyone in the public have questions? Please come up to the microphone.
My name's Lynn Orstano, niece. Our streets are falling apart. I mean, is there a pool for, like, we could set aside for our streets or do some grants for our streets?
And
If
so that-
our streets are just crumbling.
I appreciate the comment. That would be a separate conversation, and some of that money does go into our general fund, and at that point, that would be during our budget items that we can discuss how it is that we allocate those funds. But thank you for the comment.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I see no hands on Zoom, no one coming to the mic. Thank you very much for your presentation. Please keep making us money.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Only because on the memo itself, there is a recommended action for accepting the report, so it would just be by motion if your board wishes to do so.
Thank you very much for catching that. I apologize for not seeing that. Bring it back here for the board for action.
Move that we accept the December 31st, 2023 report of the Lake County Pooled Investments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are on to our 9:30 a.m. 6.8, presentation of report of summary abatement, action taken at 6439 15th Avenue, Lucerne, APN number 034212-10, property owner Rhonda Morrill. Good morning.
Good morning. Mireya Turner, Community Development Department Director, and Marcus Beltramo, our Code Enforcement Manager. The item you have before you today is a report of a summary abatement action that has been taken previously. There will be no action requested from the board at this time. It's only an update, and I will turn it over to Marcus. Might I just add that we're very thankful for the technical assistance.
All right, good morning. My name is Marcus Beltramo. I'm the manager of the Code Enforcement Division for Lake County, and today we're here to give a statutory meet a statutory requirement to give a report regarding a summary abatement. The subject property is 6439 15th Avenue in Lucerne, California. I'll try to expedite this to try to make this as quick as possible. I know the board is busy today. But at the same time, there's some points I want to hit on. And the purpose of this report is to explain the immediate issues that needed to be or necessitated this abatement. Just some background real quick. The property owner of record is Aranda Morrill. The zoning is a single R1, single-family lot. It's about 0.14 acres approximately. And here's a map of the area. So it is in a densely populated area. So we arrived, our officer was alerted to this issue by a UPS driver that was in the area. He flagged down one of our code enforcement officers, said, you need to come over here and you need to look at this property. Officer Chris Colin, who's not present here today, responded. He went to the property. These are the photos that he initially took of the site. As you can see, there are a lot of code violations here in this situation. The property is in a certain state of disrepair and trash all over the place. We found the property owner actually inside the car, and she was charging her car phone off her car battery. I mean, her smartphone off her car battery. So we also discovered that there was lack of water service to the property for about 9 years, going back 9 years. Based on the photos that we initially saw, the fact that there's lack of water services for at least 9 years, based on our training and experience, we had concerns regarding the inside of the property. So we obtained an inspection warrant. We posted, as our normal process is, we post a 72-hour to reconnect power or water, depending on what the situation is. And the below document is a request for inspection. That's a statutory requirement before we can get an inspection warrant. We conducted the inspection on February 1st, and this is what we saw. And if you could see in the picture there, there's these blue items right there. Those are what they call chuck pads. They're medical pads. And what we saw in there was what we observed was human waste. We didn't see any pets or animals on the property, so there's no reason to believe that that's animal waste in those pads. We believed it was human waste. And if you can take that and gel it with the fact that there's lack of water service, it makes sense. So we observed this scattered all over the front lawn and throughout the house. The picture on the right there is just garbage, trash, that creates an unsanitary state. When we went into the house, this is what we saw. There's a lack of an unobstructed path for emergency egress, trash piled high, smells. It was in a bad state. We requested a summary abatement, which was granted. The summary abatement was conducted from February 2nd through the 5th. Again, we only abated those issues that presented an immediate risk. We did not abate everything on this property. So we only took the unsanitary items and created an unobstructed pathway out of the house. This is just other photos of the condition of the property. The pictures on the left, we did not abate any of those issues. That's just showing further conditions of the property, which necessitated the inspection warrant. The picture on the right are the issues that we did abate. And there were issues on the inside and the outside. And here's just kind of a more panoramic view of what we're seeing at this property here. So it was in a very poor condition. Again, photos from outside and inside. Again, everything in blue that's containing human waste. These photos here are what the summary abatement looked like after we were done. We cleaned up the front part there. Again, we didn't take everything. Some things were just pushed to the side. We just took those things that were an immediate health and safety issue. We created an unobstructed path, so we took the health and safety issues away and just pushed everything to the side. So that way we did allow, if she was to go back in there, the property has been red tagged. She should not be in that property, but in case she does go in, there's an unobstructed pathway. We cautioned off the door there. There was a failing deck there, so that deck just came down. We cautioned off the door. We did red tag the property, as I mentioned earlier. She is not allowed to be in the property unless she's correcting the violations. That would be removing trash or debris. She can't be occupying the property. Here, the invoice for this, the invoice, we paid $7,000. We hired 360 Junk Removal. That's one of our contractors on file. And we moved approximately 16,480 pounds of unsanitary or health or safety issues were removed from the property. That's the end of my presentation and my report.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Vice Chair?
Yes, just wanted to highlight that I think it was the first day they were working on this. I ended up stopping by, seeing it, and it was really needed, for sure, as you can see in the pictures, but just even on the outside, you can tell that it needed to be tended to. But it makes sense that they flagged you down, because there had been no way you could have known this without someone telling you, because it had a fence, you couldn't see inside where it would have, like from any other street, you'd be able to see all of the garbage and whatnot. So, yeah, no, it was very important. I'm glad that they did that work, but there's also another one that sprung from that. We ended up going to another street in Lucerne to check out another area that had the similar issues. So these guys were not only working on that, but then there's another item on the agenda next that was on like basically the same day they were working on. So I just wanted to highlight that I did witness a lot of that work being done.
Thank you. Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you for this. We don't have to talk about it today, but yeah, the abatement need here was pretty ample. The $7,900, that seems awful cheap for the amount of work going on here. So maybe some later day we'll take a look at cost recovery and making sure we're doing enough on that. This particular thing popped midweek, so my question has to do with the property inspection warrant. I assume you have a process that's pretty solidified about getting them, and it looks like you were able to get one easily. Kind of same-day service, but what if the same thing had popped over the weekend? Can you just explain a little weensy bit about how you obtain a property inspection warrant?
So the property inspection warrants are covered under state law. I believe it's California Code of Civil Procedures 1822, and then the sequence that follows after that. That lays out what the rules are for an inspection warrant. Our abatement warrants, there's no such thing as an abatement warrant, but what case law says is that an abatement warrant, if you mimic the steps of the inspection warrant, then that's good as well. So we follow the state California Code of Civil Procedures for an inspection warrant. We did take this up to the judge. We did express the immediacy of the issue. We did ask and request that the 48-hour notice be waived. So we followed the state law and the theories for getting inspection warrants, which has been reasonable cause.
And would that same process have worked as well if you had stumbled across this on a Saturday, for example?
So code enforcement does not work on a Saturday, so we would not stumble across this on a Saturday. But if this issue did arise, the next issue might be more relevant to that type of situation where these immediate issues may arise on the weekend. Judges, I don't believe, work on Saturdays either, or at least the judges that we go to. There may be a judge, I believe there's supposed to be a judge on call 24 hours, but we probably have to consider that and put processes and procedures in place to address those issues if they did arise on a weekend.
Okay, thank you.
So I appreciate the cleanup on this. I'm just going to use blunt words, that's disgusting. And to be a neighbor in that neighborhood has got to be offensive to live in that area. I'm not certain that I agree that it reaches the endangering the community versus getting a summary abatement that is signed by a judge to cover us, that we have the ability to go on private property. If it's the potential fire, potential hazardous material, which I guess is what you're saying it is, but I feel like there needs to be better documentation for me to understand rather than just interpretation of. Cleaning it up, 100%. Dealing with the property. I'm not sure that I'm almost concerned that we opened up the house, leaving it in the mess that it is, and making it as accessible as it is now versus just red tagging and saying, you cannot go back in this house. We're boarding this up. Because that to me is a hazard to whoever goes back in, because now we've opened up walkways and ability to live in the home when that home is not meant to be habitable. And so I'm kind of concerned that we created that situation rather than dealing with the outside stuff, locking up the house, but that's just me expressing myself. Obviously, we need to deal with this. What I'm wondering is, what's the timeline for the next steps? Do you have those in mind? Because obviously, we're not done with this property.
No, the notice has been issued, and we're most likely going to have to abate the property in the next coming 30 days.
And the reason, again, I think that there is good reason to do the things that you're doing, not at all trying to dissuade you from doing the cleanups that you're doing. Every time we do something without a warrant that's signed by a judge, we open ourselves up for going on someone's private property. this is the third one, or this will be the third one that we see, maybe the fourth one that we've seen in the last, but before we weren't doing those things. Now, granted, maybe we were missing those opportunities and should have been doing those things. I want to feel very comfortable that without a warrant signed by a judge, that we're not going to end up seeing this come back to us in any other way. And so that's why I want to share those concerns, because I'd like to better understand. And I said that last time, and I think I'm going to continue saying it until I feel like there's maybe better documentation to help us recognize the difference between loss of life and limb, endangering the community with fire hazard versus dumps in other places, because I'm driving around going, is everything that I'm seeing here a summary abatement? Because there's a huge pile of garbage. What is a endangerment with this pile of garbage versus an endangerment on that pile of garbage? And I just want to make sure that we do this in the best of ways, and want to question it, not questioning, again, the end goal. The end goal, I think, is everybody's end goal is cleaning up the community. That is horrendous.
We'd be happy, should it be the will of the board, to come back with a more informative and educational presentation regarding what could trigger or what information we do use to establish a summary abatement versus just a normal nuisance abatement or illegal dumping or anything like that. The information that we depend on comes from various fields of expertise. It could come from either, you'll see the next one, environmental health, or frequently we do rely on building code to establish minimum health and safety. So, but we'd be happy to flesh that out should the board be interested in more education, because as our staff has pursued a lot of education and has really grown in their positions and their knowledge, we are finding that there are more summary abatements. We're just getting better at dealing with them now. So, you know, we might have a little bit of catch up to do, but going forward in the future, we intend to not shirk from a summary abatement need when we find one.
And I'll state what's in your memo and our policy. You're going through county council and you're going through the district supervisor prior to making any action in that area in order to do the abatement. So there are levels of checks and balances prior to taking those types of actions, and I am not questioning their interpretation. I would like to be better informed and better educated to better understand what's the line. And I know I spoke with Ms. Turner, Director Turner, about you have like a 30-day period, I think it is, for your typical abatements or your typical processes. Maybe we need to look at some high-severity issues that can really be reduced as much as possible so that you can request a warrant without having to wait those 30 days, but yet you still take action a whole lot sooner, similar to a summary abatement being action taken sooner. So I'm looking for, again, just being informed, being educated, and better understanding to make sure that we're keeping ourselves as clean as possible.
Alternatively, for future staff reports, we will make sure to cite the appropriate codes that triggered a summary abatement, just so the board is better informed.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a summary abatement in your district since you've been on?
Never seen one happen in the city of Clear Lake, no.
Okay. The only reason I know for sure that with the last two, like this one, I know that the next one, and then I want to say that there was one about a month or two ago, that had to do with fire. This has to do with, you know, feces and whatnot. The one that it was inspired that day, or that took place that day that they went and checked on, yes, it was a nuisance. Yes, it was somewhat blocking some of the road, but they didn't ask for one that day. So they're not, I don't feel, and I get these every now and again, they're not just bringing every single abatement to me to do a summary abatement. These are egregious situations. So I just wanted to highlight that. If you want to delve further into it, we can. But I do know that when these come, they're usually because of things like either feces, fire hazard, things like that. So, and I mean, in my district, there's situations where there's animals that we have a lot of problems with. So they roam, take things like this out of the yard into other yards. That's how COVID happens and things like that. So very important that things like this getting taken care of in a situation as such. So, but I mean, if we want to delve further into this, I'm fine with that too.
And I do want to express to the board that open trash or exposed trash to the elements has been a precedence or a policy that this board's seen routinely come before them for requests for summary abatement. And also, we actually did a training, I guess you would call it a training, with the Director of Environmental Health, Craig Weatherby. And he'll be coming on here later, and he can explain the ramifications or the causation of human feces and the effects on community and the diseases that spread and why it's different from animal feces and waste. And so based on that, human waste is an immediate issue that needs to be handled appropriately. When we do summary abatements, we understand that this is a sensitive issue, it's a delicate issue, and we're not just requesting it just to go ahead and do it. We understand that this is we're suspending their constitutional rights. We're taking an immediate action. So we understand the sensitivity of these issues when we make these requests, and always we will support them. Anytime a board supervisor is requested of a summary abatement, you should scrutinize us, ask us as many questions as you need, whatever you need to feel comfortable with the situation. We should be able to be in a position to provide that proof and that evidence to help you make that decision.
I shouldn't have said COVID either, because that's not accurate. I should let the environmental health folks determine what
Spread of disease.
a disease. So I apologize for that statement.
And I mean, you have at least, I want to say 500, and I'm going to make a big range, 500 to 800 cases that you're working on within the entire county. We've only seen 4, so I'm not definitely saying this is happening for every case in order to solve them as quickly as possible. This is definitely a rare case, but because of what you just stated, the constitutionality of it, I just want to make sure that we're as covered as possible in order for nothing to come back to us, because I want to keep progressing and keep cleaning things up, not have to deal with some of these repercussions potentially. So
I agree.
But appreciate what you do. I'm sorry that you have to deal with things like that, and I'm sure the community is in a better place because of that, especially as you continue the abatements. So there's no action on this, but I am going to open it up for public Supervisor Green? Sorry?
I just want to highlight, only because you raised it, and it is not an action item, so we're not going to second guess anything, but if anything cried out for summary abatement, this case did, so.
Please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Grenville Pridham. I just moved up here to get away from Los Angeles
Welcome.
Overcrowdedness. Thank you. I'm very happy to see that code enforcement is working on these issues, because that's the one thing that makes I'm just testifying as a private citizen. Driving around, there's lots of these shacks, and someone told me they're meth people inhabit these, that have garbage like this out in the yard and everything. And I would like to see more enforcement of these things. The biggest problem that I am aware of with these sorts of trash heaps is it attracts rats. And then once you get rats, then the fleas and whatever, I'm not certain who gets the typhus first, but that then introduces typhus to the community. And 2 or 3 years ago in LA and San Diego, where they had these large homeless populations suddenly emerge, where they just piled their human feces and everything just where they were sleeping. Eventually they had typhus outbreaks in both San Diego and LA. So that's one potential really bad health risk of having these piles of human feces and trash. And I also want to suggest the people that have these things have mental health problems. And I don't know, does Lake County have a public guardian? These people really need to be in a conservatorship.
I would suggest we have those services available, but not everyone is going to fit that exact category that has that type of property that looks the way it does. So yeah. I don't want to automatically place that burden on individuals that might not have the funding to be able to clean up their yards, that might have a other type of disability, but not a mental health issue. That's not always the case.
When they have human feces in their garbage lying around, that's always a mental health.
Maybe not that specific thing, but okay.
I respectfully disagree. If they have human feces on pads, that's always a mental health problem, and they probably need to be conservatorships. There can be limited conservatorships. It doesn't mean you have to cart the person off, but they need help, and I encourage the county to do everything to help these people to get these properties cleaned up, because and even if it's not a total public health issue.
And sir, I just want to make sure our our conversation today is just a presentation on that property. I know you're kind of connecting it to that, so if you could please finish your comment.
Okay, yeah, my final thing is, even if it weren't a public health, that level of trash is disgraceful, it's disgusting, and that property owner needs to be helped, and whatever the county can do, they need to do it. And I support that totally.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Is it just on that particular?
If you want to have a public comment, please come up to the microphone.
Well, Lenore Stano, Nice, 4038 Manzanilla Drive. I mean, there's oil all over Manzanilla Drive. It's going into the creek, into the lake, because they're chopping up stolen cars, and it's a mess.
I would suggest have a conversation with your district supervisor or have a conversation with code enforcement, but at this moment, it's very specific about this house.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have a hand, David Hendrick. We can unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Dave Hendrick. I'm in the Clear Lake Gardens subdivision in Nice. And we have a couple of properties here that have been red tagged for quite a while, and people living on undeveloped properties. And the situation basically is looking the same as that. Maybe not quite as bad, but we've called code enforcement out.
Mr. Hendrick, I'm going to interrupt you and say please reach out to your district supervisor or to code enforcement. Our item on the agenda is specifically to discuss the property in question.
I've shared pictures with Supervisor Crandall.
And I would suggest that we're not going to solve that issue today. I think it's been highlighted, and please reach out and continue the conversation.
He has been coming to the town halls, and they had mentioned they were going to come and support these types of actions. And I'm not sure where the other statements came from, but they were going to support these types of actions because they have similar issues. So they have been coming to the town hall in Upper Lake and accentuating those things, so just letting you know that.
Apologize for interrupting you, for bringing it back to speak specifically about the action taken on this property.
We appreciate all the efforts that you've done and are proceeding in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that ends our public comment, and no action required, so let's move on to the next item. And I'm lost here. The next item is
6.9.
9:40 a.m., presentation of report of summary abatement action taken for removal of one recreational vehicle on Highway 20, Clear Lake Oaks, registered owner Brett Hill Jr. And back to our community development team.
Good morning. Community Development Director Mireya Turner. I have with me Marcus Beltramo, Code Enforcement Manager. The item you have before you this morning is another report on a summary abatement. This one is actually a recreational vehicle, which is unusual for us, and so Marcus will fill in the details. We also do have Environmental Health Director Craig Weatherby here to assist with any supporting documentation or information.
All right. Like was stated prior, this was an unusual situation. We worked with environmental health. We relied on their expert determination to carry out this summary abatement. So Craig Weatherby's explanation is going to be very valuable to this report here. So the recreational vehicle, when it was towed, was situated on Highway 20 in Clear Lake Oaks. It was situated on the highway. It was situated over a drain, a Caltrans maintained drain. Initially, this vehicle was located in the Road Map Task Force area. We have proactive code enforcement in the area. A code enforcement officer saw this vehicle there, looked inoperable. He put an AVA tag on it. That's an abandoned vehicle abatement program tag. And we also determined that he was living in the RV, so was red tagged for those purposes as well. During his assessment and observation of the vehicle, our officer who's here today, if you have any specific questions, smelled odors that smelled like waste, human waste, and it was on the ground. It's hard to tell from the photos, but if you can see there's an outline of liquid on the ground, that would be the areas where the sewage tank was leaking on the ground. Again, this is raw sewage on private public property here. This is on January 29th. At this time, environmental health was called out to the scene as well. Their inspector gave counseling to the registered owner, Brett Hill, about what remedies and actions he needed to take. And that was basically the end of the issue, the occurrences on January 29th. On February 2nd, which is the date that Supervisor Crandall's referenced prior, this was a very busy day. We went to 3 different properties on this day within a span of about 2 or 3 hours. So while we were doing a summary abatement, environmental health contacted me, said, hey, the RV is now on Highway 20. And here's a photo. Caltrans earlier had come out, told the RV that they needed to move. That's approximately around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Environmental health got word of the situation. They contacted me, said he parked over a drain. The raw sewage is leaking into the drain. This is an emergency situation. At this point, we had to come up with a strategy to determine how we could handle and resolve this issue. Again, the registered owner, who's seen in this picture here, was told to move the vehicle. He had not moved the vehicle. And if you can tell from the timestamps, the first timestamp's about 1:50. I can't see very well from here. And the other picture is around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So within a span of 3 hours, he did not remove the vehicle as he was told by a CHP officer and by our code enforcement officers. Here's after the vehicle was towed. This is just what was left over. All the white stuff and the stuff on the highway there, that was left by the vehicle. The raw sewage, unfortunately, went into the drain and washed away. Caltrans was on the site as well with us. The individual in the orange jacket there is Caltrans. CHP showed up later. Fish and Wildlife were notified. At the end of the day, it did not seem like there was any other agency who was willing to take an action. We worked with environmental health. We requested the summary abatement, and we towed the recreational vehicle. Here's some further pictures. As on the right, you can see why he was out there. He was trying to fix the leak by spraying the foam. So he's spraying this over a drain. The stuff on the bottom is the foam coming off the septic tank that was leaking. We did have the vehicle towed. It cost us approximately $2,500 to have it towed. And basically the vehicle, because this is not a normal summary abatement or something that we tagged in our AVA program, we have now taken possession of personal property, and we're following state law about how to handle that personal property. The registered owner has been made aware of where he can retrieve his property and how to retrieve his personal items. But right now we're storing the vehicle for 60 days, and then at that time we're going to dispose of it in accordance with the code. The abatement code allows us to dispose of any materials collected during abatement in accordance with county surplus policies. So right now we are storing the vehicle. So the cost of this is $2,500 plus about $300 in storage fees. Right now the vehicle's been moved to a secure location. The sheriff has worked with us on this to reduce our cost basis. This all occurred in the Roadmap Task Force area, and we're using those funds to address this issue. And now I will let Craig Weatherby explain his analysis and reasons for making a determination that this was an immediate issue, that health and safety issue that needed to be abated.
Thank you, Marcus. Can you hear me okay? I'm not sure my mic is working well.
We can hear you fine.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yes, so this is definitely an unfortunate situation. Going with the timeline that Mark has provided, Environmental Health was contacted about this matter on January 29th. Inspector Daniel Gould was on site to assist with this matter. He had conversation with the owner of the RV, provided additional resources, gave him some contact information for people who might be able to help him, and secured a promise that he would move the RV out of the area and conduct the repair while also taking care to empty the tank and not use their sewage on the RV while they were in repair of this system. That was on the 29th. On the 2nd, we observed the RV relocated, this time directly across the street from the Clear Lake Oaks Keys area. and directly over a storm drain and still discharging sewage waste onto the ground. We requested the summary abatement for two reasons. One, since the owner of the RV had already demonstrated an unwillingness to correct the problem and further exacerbate the issue by parking over a storm drain, which immediately went into the Clear Lake Oaks Keys, less than 100 feet of travel distance. We felt that that was a significant biological concern to the public health. And then adding to the problem was, you can see the rain in the photos. That was the beginning of that second large storm system that came through our county. We wanted to try to prevent additional discharge by this because that storm was just going to wash whatever straight into that storm drain and increase the problem on top of it. Again, the owner of the RV was given the opportunity to relocate his RV and even conduct repairs. However, he demonstrated a lack of knowledge on how to repair that system, and that's why you saw that spray foam, which is not at all intended for that purpose. And once it was determined that he was incapable of providing the repair that could prevent this release, we requested the summary abatement. We requested the health officer first, who agreed that the contents of that sewage system on board represented a public health threat, and the fact that the storm exacerbated the need to immediately remove that unit from danger.
Thank you for your presentations. Any further comments or information? All right, thank you very much. Comments from board members, questions? Supervisor Green?
Just a real quick question. On the initial response, you said it got red tag, but also an AVA tag was put on it?
Yes.
And I guess the more tags the merrier, but I'm just kind of questioning that because it wasn't abandoned that I can see. It looks like it was currently registered and you did have contact with the owner. So was it abandoned in any real sense?
So abandoned is kind of a misnomer. The program is called Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Program, but it also includes inoperable, dismantled, or wrecked vehicles. At the time, my officer had reason to believe that the vehicle was inoperable, and that's why it was tagged under AVA.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Just one comment, if there's ever a way to figure out how to handle some of this stuff with environmental crimes, because that to me is a perfect example of an environmental crime, to go right over a storm drain and to allow your sewer to just go down. I know that we struggle to get things through the process and into courts, but at the same time, this is upsetting. We just had a big conversation about algae. This is one of those things where unnecessary nitrogen and phosphorus end up in our lake, and this is only making it worse. This one is very upsetting, so I'd love to see us even aim higher if it's possible. But thank you very much for that presentation. Any further comments from the public? Please come on up. And again, please make sure to relate it to this specific...
I will. Okay, I live at 4088 Manzanilla Drive in Nice. I've seen these things blow up in the post office parking lot of Nice, these RVs, and catch on fire, okay? So, and almost blow out the windows of my house. So they're dangerous. These guys running around, they move here, move there, and I see it at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning in front of my house. They're dangerous. They blow up and blow out our windows of our house, which I spent a lot of money on my house. And I'm tired of it over there on Highway 20, where I live. I'm sick and tired of it. And I want Lake County to deal with it, okay? Because I pay taxes. I spend a lot of money on my house. And these guys are running around. They pay nothing, you know? And I'm tired of it, I'm telling you, as a citizen of Lake County. Do something about these people, okay? Please, take control of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sir?
Thank you. Honestly, I didn't intend to participate. I just wanted to see what was happening in Lake County. I totally agree with the chair's idea to tie this with the environmental crimes, because that's really bad. But my question is, Are the waste tanks, are they properly emptied prior to putting in storage, or what's the process? Thank you.
Do you have a response for that?
So it was the RV was towed to our tow contractor's lot. While it was at the lot, the tanks were still leaking and being, they were leaking all over his lot. So free of charge, our contractor pumped them and handled the waste appropriately. But again, that's just more evidence that there was a raw sewage issue and it continued to leak, and had this issue not been removed, it would have continued to leak raw sewage all over the Keys area. And one other note, this RV was also involved in a prior appeal and abatement that we had that came before the board. So this was a recreational vehicle that had been causing nuisance issues and prior issues as well. So there was a history.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it gets complicated because it's a home slash a vehicle, and so there's multiple codes that come into play, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for you and your team to be able to deal with it. So appreciate it. Any further comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Any further comments or questions? Again, there's no action on this. This was presentation only. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your work.
Joanne, can I eject it?
Should the board like to take up item 514 that was pulled from consent, I'm available to discuss it at your convenience.
I think I'm going to first respect the times, the timed items, since we're already a bit behind, but we will get to that as soon as possible.
Taking a break?
And I am being requested to take a break, so let's go ahead and come back at 11 a.m. Let's take a 10-minute break. Move forward. All right, welcome back. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with us. This is our 6.10 item, 9:50 a.m. Consideration of a presentation of annual update from the Lake County Fire Safe Council, and B, letter of support for the Lake County Fire Safe Council to apply for the County Coordinator Grant Program. If it's possible to please quiet down in the room, please. Thank you so much. And we have presenters in front of us. Terry Loxton, please.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Terry Loxton. I'm the Chief Climate Resiliency Officer and Tribal Liaison for the County of Lake, and I'm very happy today to introduce Lori Hutchinson, who is the Program Director for the Lake County Fire Safe Council under the Lake County Resource Conservation District, and she's going to give a presentation about what the Fire Safe Council has been up to in the last year. So I'll turn the microphone to Lori.
Thank you very much, Terry. If you want to go ahead with the first slide. So just a quick background, the Fire Safe Council was created in 2009 as an ad hoc committee of the Board of Supervisors. That has not changed since 2009, so we are currently working on updating that contract just to finalize some different things that needed to be changed, updated, and we're hoping to move. I've always been under the Resource Conservation District. We are hoping to make that a permanent program of the Resource Conservation District, make things go a little bit smoother on my end. Basically, over the past year, we've been working on several different things. If you want to go to the next one, please. Next one. And you can go to the next one. Some of the current projects. So we recently, with the RCD, facilitated a DEIB workshop for both the RCD, the Fire Safe Council, and the RRA. We've worked on a community-wide defensible space program that we just created with a grant that we have recently acquired. We had a stop work order on that in December, so it's kind of on hold at the moment. We've been waiting for the funding to come through and signing contracts on that, but we're hoping to get that up and running. And thankfully, Supervisor Pyska gave us some money out of her discretionary fund to do work, so we actually worked, and Supervisor Crandall, thank you, sir. So we've got a list of homes in your areas just this week to Brian Bartko with Hogback Ridge, and so he is prioritizing those homes and looking at them to spend that money and get that defensible space work done on those homes. We all know that's huge throughout the county, so I'm also hoping, I'm super thankful for your guys' support that allows us to do that work right now without having to wait on that other funding. So that's a big one. We are hoping to be able to continue that program. I'm continuing to look for funding right now, working with community partners at different grants to keep that going, and maybe that's something we can address here in the future as well, getting funding for that. Let's see, CMAT recommendations. We are working on implementing several of those CMAT recommendations from that workshop we had like 2 years ago, 3 years, I don't remember the date. It's 3 years ago, thank you. So we're working on implementing that. I just actually received a COCOAIM grant, who is the ones that do the CMAT presentation is COCOAIM. So we've got a grant for that to hopefully get an executive director hired for the Fire Safe Council and the RCD, just to help us build capacity. That's our biggest obstacle, I feel like, right now, is the capacity of myself for the longest time being the only one in the Fire Safe Council. So we hired Jade Coalitions and Collaboratives in 2023. They have helped me with a ton of grant writing, not only writing the grants, but once we get them, administering them, carrying out all that work. So that's been huge for me. Just partnering on events and outreach programs with people, NCO, NeighborFest events. We've done lots of that kind of stuff. What's that?
I said they're fun.
Yes, they are really fun. It's great to engage the community that way and get people just doing fun activities. We all realize that there's a lot that has to go on. We know the wildfire severity and the issues that we have here, but it's fun to get together and collaborate that way and bring people together and get them excited about doing it in their own smaller communities and their neighborhoods. So, and then just supporting local businesses, like using Hogback Ridge crew, trying to keep those people doing a lot of the work. and any other contractors we're vetting here in the county that we can utilize as well. And then we try to support local businesses for these events by hiring them for food services and stuff. Next one. Just pictures. We can go to the next one. The Defensible Space Program, we can't play the video, but if you go to the next slide, Terry, there's a couple of pictures. Here's a before and after picture of one of the residences that we worked on. So we have about $2,500 per household for each home that we go to do this work, and so it varies. Obviously, we just have to vet those houses, look at them when we send the crew out there to do the work. Some days we think, this is, the homeowner will tell us this is an all-day project. Well, you send a crew of 8 to 10 people out there, they knock it out in 2 to 3 hours. And it's like, okay, well, now we need to find another home to do. So we're working really hard to get those all scheduled with that contractor in same neighborhoods, so that's the best use of their time. And then we're just leveraging other projects that are going on in the community to try to build off of the work that they're doing as well. So we recently did a PG&E project in the Black Forest area, Rivieras. Tara's doing work there, Clerk is doing work there as well. PG&E has asked us to apply for the next round of that grant. So we will continue to work on that evacuation route through that Black Forest and working with the community partners there. I kind of already talked about Jade, hiring them. They've been phenomenal for me. I hope to be able to continue using them. I'm going for another couple of grants right now that will allow us to continue utilizing them and paying them. Future Fire Safe Council, kind of same thing. You can go to the next one, Terry. I talked about all these things already, except for the strategic planning. We're working on that as well. Hopefully with this executive director, when we find somebody, we'll start working on that very specifically to keep us moving forward. And then the California Fire Safe Council Coordinator Grant, NCO had that previously. We are hoping to get the letter of support from you guys today so that the Fire Safe Council can go for that round of funding this time. So that will just continue to help fund myself and also Jade Collaboratives. We can pay them through that grant as well to keep furthering our work and do executive director, any of the other capacity building stuff that we are looking to do with personnel. Is that it? Yep, that should be it.
Anything further to add before we go to comment and questions?
Infinity.
I'm just glad you're doing it, not me. Nope, I think that is all I have.
Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for your presentation. It's very appreciated. No matter how much rain falls out of the sky, we're all still worried about fires. We've all experienced whether evacuation or losing homes, and so it's very important to continue that work. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And I believe that Supervisor Pyska has a comment or a question.
Appreciate this. This presentation and update, Lori. You've done incredible work with the Fire Safe Council, and we have been putting a lot of effort into developing both the RCD, the Resource Conservation District, and the Fire Safe Council so that they really can stand up on their own. That's been the goal.
Yes.
For the last several years, since the very beginning when I very first took office and I was assigned this committee, which we've been working through the contract. We've been trying to figure out how to get it to be self-sustainable. And what you've talked about are the layering of grants and opportunities that we've been doing. It's not just one, it's many, many, many. Building up that capacity, partnering with the RCD, bringing Jade in. There's been a tremendous amount of work, and the goal is to disconnect this council from the county so that it can be its own entity. And so that's been the goal for a long time. We're getting really, really close. So I'm just so grateful for everybody that shows up for the monthly meeting, that participates, and all the partners that lend a hand. And the Defensible Space Program is something that we've needed in this county for a long, long time. People have always asked us about it because we have many seniors, low-income folks, vulnerable folks. And we know that if we don't have everybody in the community having defensible space, then we're not a hardened community, and then we're susceptible. Your neighbor's susceptible if you don't have defensible space. So this is a big, big deal, and this is a program that we really need to figure out how to make it permanent and sustainable in our communities, which is why Vice Chair Crandall and I front-loaded this program. There were some issues at the state. That's why the stop order happened. But in speaking with Deputy Director Bigelow, it looks like it's getting all worked out, which is good because we need that. But not, we have our regular defensible space, our annual maintenance, but this year and last year got hit by hard storms that caused a lot of damage. A lot of trees came down last year in the lower elevations. And then this year up in the higher elevations. So we really need to be able to expand it when we have that need, because right now in Cobb, we've got thousands of trees down everywhere. In 6 months, that's a hazard. So really, we finally have this program, and it does, it highlights the need for seniors, but also our Latino population. And our low-income folks. And so those are the 3 groups that it's really targeted to, but anybody should apply if they've got this need, especially if they have a whole lot of new yard decorations.
Yes,
and there could be some more after this weekend. So this letter to the State Fire Safe Council is really important. What the State Fire Safe Council has learned is that we're not unique. Lake County, we have a fire safe council, but it is not a council. There's no members on it. We've had Lori running the show for years, and you've been doing a great job. But we need to develop it more, and the state is really seeing that. And so that's why they're releasing the second round of funding, because they know the first round of funding kind of got, the wheels moving, but it's not enough. It's not enough. When I talk to my colleagues in other counties, like Butte County has 52 employees. Yeah. Their fire safe council has 52 employees.
That'd be amazing.
Right. We have 1. So we're getting there. So I'm in full support of the letter, getting this next round of funding, continuing to build up that work. And when the day comes for us to separate, that is going to be a beautiful day, because I will know the Fire Safe Council will be standing up on its own with the RCD.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your undying support. It's meant the world, honestly.
Happy to.
I see no further comments or questions. I'll ask a quick question. So this is very similar to prior grants that you said was going through NCO in the past. Is it going to be logistically coordinated in the same way, where they apply for Lake County, they receive the fundings? Who was doing the reporting and actually running the actual grant based on the requirements from the state? Just wanted to check in, just because it has the County of Lake's name. I would suspect there's a certain level of capacity required from the County of Lake in order to ensure that requirements are met at the state. Just wanted to better understand that process, and if that's the same process we would be using.
It's different because NCO applied last time.
So they didn't apply for the County of
No.
Lake, they applied as their own?
They applied
Gotcha.
through the Risk Reduction Authority, in partnership with the Risk Reduction Authority. And NCO, because again, we were trying to figure out how do we build up this program. And so a lot happened. NCO supported the meetings. There was staff time, there was the best fits grants, there was a lot that came out of that, but it wasn't exactly the correct fit. And so now that the RCD, we've been developing them, and with the help of Jade, now the RCD as a special district has the capacity to apply for the grant and support the Fire Safe Council grant, or Fire Safe Council, even though we're still tied with the county.
Right. And so the RCD will still be administering a lot of that grant. Reporting will go through the county as well, but we will be doing, myself and then the RCD will be doing all that reporting and making sure it gets there on time and to whoever it needs to go to. But you guys will be looped into that as well.
Okay. And my question is always one of capacity. I don't think this would be brought to us if there wasn't the capacity to be able to do that, but I do have concerns of capacity. We keep asking more and more from our admin, and it doesn't sound like any of the funds would go to the county, so we would be using our own general funds in a sense to process, and maybe that's $5,000. I don't know what the exact cost would be, but just thinking out loud for future causes, as there is an increase and there is more that's capable to be done through these grants, that it would also maybe ask more from the county, and maybe at that point looking at a grant that can split off a portion to the county to help pay and compensate for the work that the county will be doing on their part to ensure, because if there are issues with grants, that all would come back to the County of Lake. It wouldn't come back to the Fire Council, and I just want to think in the future, want to support what you're doing and continue what you're doing. Expanding capacity and being able to do more work to keep people safe in our communities is super important, but just wanted to put that concept out there and just think of how it is that we can share some of those resources as well.
But we already fund the Fire Safe Council through Title III. So we already receive those funds. Then they go through the RCD and into the Fire Safe Council, and that's how Lori is paid.
Right. And then Kristen Murphy is my Jade partner. She could not be here today, but she would have been the one that would be able to jump on that and answer like, oh yes, da-da-da-da, because she's great about all the grants. But I know that you can write into some of these grants, you take the administrative fees and pay things out of that. So I don't know how that works with the county, if it's a contractual.
Well, the only connection we have right now is the Title III. We have the contract,
Right.
and we have the Title III funding. The RCD is handling all of this.
All of the rest of it.
So we don't have an obligation for this grant. The RCD and the Fire Safe Council is handling.
I would say we do. If our name is on the grant and
Yes.
it's a pass-through, we need to ensure and review that the reporting is being done appropriately and not just not take a look at it. So there's a certain level of oversight that's required from the county.
Yes.
Again, it could cost a maximum of $5,000, and even then, it might not be that much. But there is a certain capacity and cost that is attributed to the county for doing it.
Very similar to what's already happening with the Title III responsibility.
So just wanted to bring that up. Any further questions or comments? Opening it up for public. Any comments or questions? And bringing it back to the board for action.
Nothing further, Chair. I move to approve the letter of support for the Lake County Fire Safe Council to apply for the County Coordinator Grant Program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah.
Keep our fingers crossed for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, and we're going to move on to our 6.11, our 11 a.m. item, public hearing, consideration of agreement for the purchase of real property located at 16540 State Highway 175 in Cobb, and B, consideration of resolution accepting and consenting to recordation of a grant deed. Director Ewing, welcome.
Good morning, Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. So in February 2023, your board granted conceptual approval and appointed a negotiating team for the property that's referenced there for the purchase of that property for a future park. For some background that was discussed back then to the board, but it's worth retelling briefly here. The Cobb area is the only, if not one of the only, if not the only general plan area in the county that does not have a community park. So there's an ongoing pursuit of that, or at least an ongoing desire for a park up in Cobb. That's referenced in their, I believe it's a draft area plan, but it's also a pursuit that's emphasized in the draft Parks, Recreation, and Trails Master Plan that we just received. So it's supported through that. It's been identified as support through a lot of public outreach. And so we pursued that. Board approved that location, the property, for a future park. Since then, after the conceptual approval, Staff worked on a variety of things. We secured a preliminary title report, an appraisal. It was appraised at $390,000. We had a septic inspection, a building inspection, hazard tree assessments, removal of abandoned vehicles, and the result after all of that was the acceptance of a $300,000 offer by the county. The owner accepted that offer, and I want to thank Celia Hoberg in Public Services. She's in the audience here. Her background as an escrow officer in property acquisitions was, I mean, it was just immense. So can't thank her enough. After that time, and it will concurrent to that, from June of 2023 till now, there are a few other items to point out. We do have a CEQA notice of exemption and a general plan conformity for the acquisition, and the acquisition alone. That does not include the actual development. Those are separate actions. We had tribal consultation with Middletown and Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, just at a very conceptual level. Again, not for the actual design, but just to start the conversation. We also have a concept plan for potential park development. Again, just concept only at this point. So if approved, if the purchase is approved, moving ahead, we Public Services would initiate an additional public outreach process to develop both an interim and a long-term use plan for the project. The funding that your board appropriated was $1 million, and with this purchase plus ancillary costs that we have closing costs and appraisals, other things that I mentioned earlier, we have somewhere in the range of $650,000 to $670,000 remaining for the project, which will not go to full construction. We still have planning, environmental studies, design to do. So the intent would be to get to a point where we can open it to the public with the funding that we have. That would be the phase one, enough that we would likely have infrastructure in place to use the park, some trails, and then the phase two work. It's my hope that we can secure grant funding for that. There are a number of grant programs available for park development. While there has been recently a big push for that and a lot of funding for parks through Prop 68 at the state, there are other avenues that we can pursue for that. So for that, the follow-up development, it's my hope that we can pursue external funding. And it's worth mentioning, continuing from there, tribal consultation and maintenance is another thing to touch on. The project is in an area, the property is in an area where we don't have a maintenance yard. So there will be a maintenance impact, which comes with annual costs. I'm pretty confident that we can address that with our ongoing operations budget that we have now. And if we identify the need for additional funding, then I would be discussing that with admin and how we can work that out. So it's my recommendation that we move ahead with the purchase. Happy to answer any questions if they're detail oriented with respect to the acquisition. We certainly have a good team over here and Celia in the audience to help me out. So I'll hand it over to the board.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Supervisor Pyska.
Well, thank you so much, Lars. This has been a big push, and Celia is such a rock star. You are so awesome. Your team is amazing. This really has been the vision for a long, long time. Going way back, decades, people have been trying to figure out how to get a park in Cobb. And so the time is right, and the resources are there, and the property was identified. And really appreciate you coming so many times to do outreach work with the community. You gave up a lot of nights and weekends for that, to be in the places where people gather and get their vision. So I'm really excited for this to unfold.
Great. And I'm glad you were looking at Celia when you said that. She really was the workhorse behind it.
Supervisor Green.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Going to be excited to support this. I did spend a little time scrolling right now just because it wasn't attached to this item. I assume the minutes of the June 8, 2023 Planning Commission meeting does reflect what's stated in the summary and the staff memo that they did make findings of conformity with the general plan and also found it to be categorically exempt from CEQA. I just want to note that's not presented with this bundle today, so all I had to rely on was the summary and the staff report. Again, I haven't found the minutes, but I did find the agenda item, so it looks like everything's in order on that, so thank you.
Mike Shaletto, is that the right name?
Oh, yes.
I'll never forget, because I agree 100%. Parks is economic development, and it's what attracts people to want to live in areas, and not having one is definitely a disservice to attracting people to wanting to build, invest, and be in a community. So this is great news for that area. I think every community deserves to have its little green space to enjoy and get away from, and so looking forward to seeing how this pans out, how this develops.
Great. Well, thank you. And on the note of Mike Shelato and I should say not or, but Parks as an engine for the economy. I referenced earlier the Parks Master Plan, the Parks Recreation and Trails Master Plan that's in draft format. So in the next few months, you'll see, the board will see that going through a public review period, going through presentation with the board. So we're coming to the completion of that plan, which is not a part of this item, but certainly worth referencing, and you can keep it on your radar in the coming months.
I did try really hard to see if there's a way to directly connect to the trails and bogs, but it's just, it's
You don't have to worry about that, we got it.
it's not going to be perfectly direct. It'll be an indirect
We're
connection.
working on that with property owners.
So, any further comments or questions? Open it up for the public. Celia, do you have anything to add?
Morning, my name is Robert Stark. I've lived in Cobb for 49 years. I was the general manager of the Cobb Area County Water District for 35 years, and a very active member of the community. And I would just want to let you know that we just thoroughly support this in the highest degree, and we really appreciate Jessica's work on this. I can tell you, in the 49 years that I've lived there, there's never been a time that someone hasn't said, geez, if we only had a park, if we only had a place. Yeah, we got Bog State Forest, good. You got trailer trucks coming and going, you got dust, you got all those things. We need a place for kids to go sit on the swing set and do their thing, and for families to go, and for people to walk their dog and all that good stuff. I just want to tell you that I'm the president of the Lions Club, and as a member of the community is very enthusiastic about this, and we endorse your positive actions on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board from action.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agreement for the purchase of real property located at 16540 Highway 175 in Cobb. Two or one? And I'll offer that.
On that same recommended action, if your board may add and authorize the board chair to sign.
And authorize the board chair to sign.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries,
And I'll offer the resolution.
and the resolution's been offered.
Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Supervisor Green?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye. Thank you very much. Milestone. Look at that. We're back close to time. Our 6:12 item, 11:30. Is that the one that we're pushing to the following week?
Yes, please. Chair, if you could, we'll continue this to the March 5th item. And since Lars is in the room, you may wish to take up 7.21 if you'd like.
Well, now I feel like I need to just take up 7.21.
Try to catch you before you.
I don't have my stuff, but
You'll do great.
all right.
Welcome back.
Thank you. All right, Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. So let me flip to 721.
Let me read it, I'm sorry. Consideration of the award of bid number 23-32 to Reconstruction, Inc., for the East Lake Sanitary Landfill Phase 1 cell construction project in the amount of $5,161,663.
All right. Good morning. Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. So with that title and without my notes, I certainly am familiar with the project, so I can talk through it. As the board is aware, Public Services has been pursuing an expansion to the East Lake landfill for a number of years. Earlier this year, in fact, I should say late last year, we put out an invitation for bids for the expansion. We received, I believe it might be in the memo, 5 to 6 bids. Regi Construction was the low bidder. It's important to note that the invitation for bids did include a local workforce preference policy. All or at least the majority of the bidders included that, and it did not factor into the calculation of who the low bidder was. So recommendation is to move ahead with the award, and we would anticipate construction beginning near the end of April and take about 4 to 5 months.
Thank you very much for that update. Any questions on this?
It's a big project.
It is. It is very big.
It's been a long time coming.
Time coming.
I do want to say nothing to change here, but the local workforce amount, when it's only a 1% difference, it's a drop in the bucket when you're looking at this large number. So that is something that I will be bringing up on a different item that we talk about today, just to see if there can be some assistance in helping.
And it might be worth mentioning here, it's very uncommon, to be honest, that we apply that policy. The majority of our projects, well, certainly for a project of this size, a project this size is most commonly paid for through state or federal funds. And when you have funds like that, it does not allow the local policy to apply. In this case, it's entirely local, so we can, but the policy caps the discount at $50,000, and so when you're talking about the 1%, the equivalent of 1%, it doesn't mean a whole lot for projects that are in the $150,000 range or maybe even more, which we do have some for parks and buildings and grounds in particular. It has applied in the past and has made a difference. So I might just suggest that some focus on the bigger picture projects may not be as impactful as you might otherwise believe. A landfill project may, certainly, because most commonly we would pay for that using local dollars.
Yep. No, appreciate what needs to be done over there, and looking forward to this commencing. Any further comments? Open it up for the public. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? And seeing none, let's bring it back for action.
There's not a further, Chair. I move to approve the award of bid number 23-32 to Regi Construction, Inc. for the East Lake Sanitary Landfill Phase 1 cell construction project in the amount of $5,161,663, and authorize the chair to sign the agreement and the notice of award.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, and I appreciate you taking up the item.
Yeah. Thanks, Susan. Okay, I think our next timed item is 1 p.m. So let's.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Director Turner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to start going through the list for who is currently sitting in our, and Director Turner, would you like to take up your items? We have 714. Consideration of First Amendment to Agreement between County of Lake and PlaceWorks for planning services to prepare the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan for an increase of $186,000 for a total amount not to exceed $2,074,954. And with that, I'll turn it over to Director Turner.
Uriah Turner, Community Development Director. The amendment that you have before you today is to add the climate adaptation plan to the existing agreement that we have with PlaceWorks for the update of our general plan and local area plans. We were awarded funding for the climate adaptation plan through the APGP grant and wanted to thank our Chief Climate Resiliency Officer for working so hard to secure those funds. The basis of the climate adaptation plan will also use the climate vulnerability analysis, which is already part of the scope of work for PlaceWorks agreement since it is required by law to be part of the safety element. PlaceWorks has agreed to add the cap onto their scope of work for the funds that were awarded from the APGP grant, which is the $186,000. I welcome any questions the board may have.
Thank you very much for this important addition to the whole general documents that are being updated. So thank you very much. Any comments or questions regarding this amendment? I think it's simple because we're getting a grant to help pay for this, and that just makes it all easier.
It is, and just as the general plan and local area plans are going to be community vision driven, the climate adaptation plan will also just get folded naturally into that.
Perfect. And opening up for public comment, anyone wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, let's bring it back for action.
Mr. Chair, I will move to, well, I had it. I'll move to approve the First Amendment to agreement between County of Lake and PlaceWorks for planning services to prepare the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan, CAP, for an increase of $186,000 for a total amount to not exceed $2,074,944 and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to take up 5.14, if you don't mind,
I would be happy to take
while you're there, so we
Thank
can
you.
conclude your items.
I made it.
5.14 is approve First Amendment to agreement between County of Lake and Leonard's Hauling and Tractor for nuisance abatement services for an increase of $45,000, total amount not to exceed $75,000 for a term from July 31st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, and authorize the chair to sign. Director Turner.
Thank you. I am thankful that my annual evaluation has been moved to a different date because it's embarrassing to let you all know that I made a simple addition error on this memo. We currently have an agreement with Leonard's Hauling for $50,000. We would like to increase that by another $45,000. They are instrumental in our abatement of the trailers of the larger size vehicles that we seem to see an increasing number of lately. So you'll see that on the memo, it does say an amount not to exceed $75,000. On the agreement, it says not to exceed $100,000. It should actually read $95,000, which is $50,000 plus $45,000. So I would request an amendment to be considered by this board, and I apologize for my not using a calculator.
Just to be clear, the contract seems to say not to exceed $100,000?
It does. It should say $95,000.
Okay, so we're changing both the recommended action and on the agreement. Okay.
Yes, and funding for these will come from nuisance abatement funds.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Kind of need that to do the things you showed us earlier, so.
Indeed.
Let's move forward with that. Opening up for the public. Any public comments on this item? Seeing none in either the Zoom room or the chamber, bringing it back for action.
So, further, Chair.
With changes.
I move to approve the First Amendment to the agreement between the County of Lake and Leonard's Hauling and Tractor as amended for nuisance abatement services for an increase of $45,000 with a total amount now not to exceed $95,000 for a term from July 31, 2023 through June 30, 2024, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I believe those are all the items that we had pulled.
We're very, very interested in the 3 different appointments you're going to make, but anytime, I'm here all day, so.
Okay. I think we're going to take that up at a later time, at this
Okay.
moment in time, so let's go through the rest.
Super, thank you.
Let's see what we've got. So 11:42. Wondering if we can take, I believe that we should have the time. I'd like to see if we can stop at 12 and take our lunch since we have a 1 o'clock item. I believe that we are able to take our, where is it? Our public defenders one, where is that? 7:19. CAO Parker, I think we have the time to be able to take that.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and take that. Consideration of work plan for the Public Defender's Office. And welcome, Mr. Buenaventura.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for calling me. I don't. Okay. Yeah, sure. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. It's great to be with you again. I'm hoping that I learned my lesson from last time in that I know I went on, and I'm hoping that this is going to be more of an abbreviated version, so I'll try not to go on and on. So the work plan. First, before I talk about the work plan, I want to take this opportunity to thank you all again for putting your faith and trust in me in establishing this office. I want you to know how grateful I am to be here and to do this. The very first day I got here, it just has been just an incredible experience to be able to and it is a position of privilege to be able to start something new here. And because I can see it coming together. I can see the people responding, and I can see the community responding. So I want to take that opportunity to thank you once again. All right, the mission statement. So bringing you back to this mission statement, the central part of my office is to provide this effective assistance of counsel and to do it in a more holistic way. I've emphasized that in our meetings together, and that is really the goal of my office. Next slide, please. So the focus of my office is really on 3 different areas. Early representation, this pretrial and jury trial, that is really the meat of our representation of criminal defendants. And also we have the post-conviction issues. Next slide, please. So this is my my oversight. This is the oversight committee that you as the board have set up, and this is who I believe is going to be a good model to supervise my office. There are already members on there. There are some vacancies that need to be filled. I'm sure you will do it shortly, but I think this is essential, and I'm grateful that we have this in place. Next slide, please. So this is a draft of what I envision to be my structure in my office. We're going to have roughly about 8 lawyers in the beginning, 3, maybe 2 investigators, and some admin staff. Again, it's a draft only. I think the numbers will probably change in the future. Again, it'll be dependent on the need and how things play out. And also, obviously, central to that is the workflow. Next slide, please. So the workflow of my office really, and my public defenders center on these 3 things, these things around it: felonies, misdemeanor, juvenile cases, specialty courts, post-conviction relief, and motions and writs. So that is what I envision my attorneys doing. Now, not all my lawyers will be doing everything on that workflow. Some will be doing a combination of things. Some will be doing exclusively one thing. And again, it's going to depend on the need and the workflow and the skill set of the attorney. An example could be I could have one misdemeanor lawyer also doing assignment in a specialty court, such as the mental health court. Or I could have a felony lawyer just exclusively dealing with felony cases. Again, it depends on the need, the skill set, and the caseload. Here's the timeline. So this is how I envision my office completing its task of becoming fully operational. I believe that this is a good timeline. It's an aggressive timeline, but it's a timeline I think we can meet, and that's going to be my goal. Right now, we are working on some job descriptions, and that is soon to be published. Recruitment for the attorneys and other positions will start next month, and I plan on interviewing people in March and April. My initial plan is to take on all the misdemeanor representation in this county. All the representation means hiring 3 deputy public defenders to do misdemeanors. And so my initial request is going to be 3 attorneys, misdemeanors, 1 investigator, and an office manager. And then I expect to start June 1st, taking over all the misdemeanor representation. And then I believe that I can slowly, as we transition to an office, to start doing felony cases. And then I'm going to do that in piece by piece. And I expect to hire a felony attorney in August, 2 more in October, 2 more in December, and then taking over juvenile representation in January. And my hope is a year from now, we become fully operational in February. Next slide, please. On the conflicts issue. So I can, let me back up by saying, there are various models of conflict representation in the indigent criminal defense community. One example is the LA model. So in LA, they actually have 3 indigent defense programs. One, they have the primary public defender's office. Then they have this thing called the alternate public defender's office for the conflicts. But then there are conflicts of conflicts. So there's a 3rd branch, and that was the independent contracts panel in LA. What's happened in LA is that independent contracts panel was actually absorbed by the public defender. So now the public defender does the conflicts as well. So that's a model that can be utilized and used here. I could do that, but I'm not gonna, at least for now. I think the better plan for now, as with respect to conflicts, is to have 2 contract lawyers doing the conflicts, similar to like a lid situation. But I think that's the better plan for now. That could change later on, we'll see. And so let me go on to the budget. So the budget is about 2.7 million, which 1.7 is being absorbed by the lid contract. So my goal is, as we increase our representation as we take on more and more the responsibility of the Indigent Defense Program in Lake County. The LID contract and the amount that they're getting will decrease. It only makes sense. And that money will go to my office as we get to develop and build upon a bigger office and taking more responsibility. And so we're in a hybrid situation right now, and that's going to be fluid for a while until we become fully operational, but I think this budget makes sense. Some of the challenges. Next slide, please. So obviously the big challenge is the LID resignation. Actually, to just give you an update, if you didn't know, Tom Feimer, who was administering the contract, has resigned. And then Mitch Hauptman was taking over temporarily, and I believe he is going to step aside, and there's going to be another LID attorney who's going to take over. We are in negotiations with them as to what the next step is with their contract. In fact, I think we're meeting with them tomorrow, and we'll have more, hopefully, news about that. Hiring staff, that's going to be a challenge. I know that the salaries are going to be looked at with respect to people who want to come and become deputy public defenders. I'm hoping it's going to be attractive for them. I'm hoping this place becomes attractive to them because it's a great community. It's a great place to live, and the economy is, in terms of buying a house, it's much better for people. But I'm hoping to get some good people. But at the same time, I recognize there is talent here in Lake County. There are some really good lawyers here in Lake County. I've seen that. I've experienced that, and I've talked to them. So, but the hiring process is open. There are no promises made to anybody, and I want to get the best of the best for the people of Lake County and their representation. The other challenge is the office space. So you should know that I have looked at several locations for office space. I have one place in mind, and that's a location that is near the new courthouse. It's about 3,000 square feet. In fact, earlier this month, I had Lars Ewing and Carlos come with me to check out the place. They gave me some really good advice, some feedback on what that is going to look like and how it would operate. They gave me some suggestions on modification, tenant improvements. I've also had the county IT personnel come and take a look at it as well and give me some advice on Wi-Fi capabilities in the county network. I think it looks good, but we're going to be negotiating a lease hopefully soon. And so this is just last slide is just to let you know that I do believe that we can. When I got here, one of the things that sort of resonated with me and what people were telling me is that Lake County has this appeal to people, and the theme always resonated with me, which is we're all in this together. And that's what I truly believe, we are in this together. And it's because of the people. I've met some incredible people, and I do get that sense of we're all in this together. On a personal note, I wanted to let you know that my term as mayor of Daly City ended in December. I submitted my letter of resignation in December. My last date for the meeting on the council was January 22nd. And so my service and commitment to Daly City has terminated. I've also resigned from the Central Committee in San Mateo County. I bought a place here in Lakeport. And so I am fully invested in this community. I am grateful to be here. I am grateful to be in this position to start a new office. I am hopeful because I do see it coming together nicely. And we're well on our way to having what I think will be a really premier public defender's office. So I hope I did it in the time allotted, and
It's not
I'm
12
here-
o'clock yet, so it's perfect.
So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate you being here as well. There's definitely a lot of work to do, but we're in this together, and we're going to make it happen. Any Supervisor Green?
Thank you. I think I know the answer to this question, but I have to ask it anyway, because the overall thrust of why we're doing this is to address some pretty serious issues involving fair representation and the compliance with the Sixth Amendment. In your timeline, the first hires are for misdemeanor attorneys, and probably the more difficult hires are projected farther down the line, and those may be for the felony attorneys that are going to handle the more complicated cases. Yeah. So, and I think I know the reason for this. You need to get up and running. The case flows are there. So am I correct in saying that this is basically a staffing plan versus a full-blown representation plan? Because if it were me, I would probably, being ignorant of everything, I'd probably focus on the felony attorneys first. So why misdemeanor attorneys and then bringing on a felony attorneys a little bit farther down the road?
Yeah, so representation of felonies is it's a lot more complicated, I think. There's a lot of risk in terms of their exposure, their sentencing, the work that needs to be done. And you go in and you get complicated in terms of the evidence, the investigation. Sometimes there's DNA involved. Sometimes it's just a really complex caseload. And so I want to make sure that as I'm on the way to building this office, that things are moving along nicely and that they're almost perfect before we take on that task. So I think starting with felonies is an easier transition. It makes more sense. For example,
Or misdemeanors is what
I'm sorry, misdemeanors. For example, I'm working on the nuts and bolts of the office right now. So one of the things is the case management system that I'm putting together. I want to make sure that is seamless, that it's flowing, that there are no problems when we start to getting felonies. I'm developing a research platform for my attorneys to do their research, writing their motions, things like that. I want to make sure that's all in place. I also am working on to make sure some of the collateral consequences of representation are there for my attorneys to have. For example, I recently was able to get a grant to fund immigration consultation services for my lawyers. So if they have an immigration question, they go straight to this resource, and it's free, and it's a grant. So I want to have an investigation system in place, so it's standardized. So when an attorney needs an investigator, there's a form, there's certain things that are going to be done right away, and it's seamless. I want an investigator to be at the office all the time. It's not going to be a remote investigator. It's not one who's going to work off-site. I want them to be in the office, available for consultations for those lawyers right away. So I want to make sure everything is in place by the time we start doing felonies. So that's my answer.
Any other questions or comments? So
My only gripe is that you didn't find a place in District 3.
Oh.
No, but I understand, you know, the attorney's got to be near the courthouse. I'm just joking.
Always trying, always trying.
All right, why not?
So one of the things that was involved in your presentation was the Oversight Committee. And obviously, you're alluding, especially in your purpose statement, mission statement, of the Sixth Amendment report that kind of led to all of these changes that we're looking at. Things are happening today, even though you don't have your full office activated. You're building it as we speak and slowly migrating either from LID or collaborating with LID. I'm wondering at what point we should start expecting data. Because I'm not aware as to how many clients does each public defender have to carry. When looking at all of those splits between juvenile, misdemeanor, felony, what is the highest percentage of those cases, and how many of those cases are in those individual public defenders? Just looking for some data points, because the Sixth Amendment looked at those data points. I think we need to have like a baseline. Where are we starting from? Just to see where is our successes, where are our struggles as we move forward, and just kind of wondering what your timeline might be for providing some of that information. Obviously, as you progress into the Oversight Committee, I'm hopeful that those things will be made available to the Oversight Committee, but I think it should be also made available, maybe not as often, but from time to time back to the Board of Supervisors to make sure that we are seeing the results that we're looking to achieve.
Absolutely. So one of the first things that I did was I looked at the contract, the LID contract, and the LID contract actually says that LID is supposed to report every 30 days their caseload, how many cases they're dealing with. And so I have an idea of what they're dealing with every month. I usually get a report every month. That's some of the things I'm looking at in terms of figuring out what the right caseload is going to be. There is also a study that's about to come out, which is a national study of what public defender offices should look like in terms of the number of cases each attorney should have. The Sixth Amendment report actually recommended 14 attorneys for Lake County, 10 felonies, 4 misdemeanors. So that's something I'm looking at as well. So all of that, as I get more and more data, as I make my own data when I start representing people, I'll have something more concrete and I'll present that to the board.
And when do you envision that the Oversight Committee will be reactivated? Because it hasn't been activated, I think, since I've been here. I don't think anybody's met, and I think that was part of our issue in, I'm not going to say dropping the ball, but being kind of unknowns to us that these were the situations that were happening in court until we got the report.
So,
at least the specifics.
Right. So I know that because of the vacancies that you don't have a full Oversight Committee, and I know that people have applied. In fact, when I go around talking to people, they've said they have applied. So once you fill that, I'm hopeful that the Oversight Committee will meet quarterly, if not at least twice a year. But again, it's up to the Oversight Committee as to how often they want to meet with me, but I'm willing to meet as often as they want because I think their ideas are going to be central to my mission and purpose. And so I think I would appreciate the feedback from them and the criticism, quite frankly, from them, because it will be helpful to me. So I'm hoping a quarterly meeting will happen, and we can set that on the road. But I think the first step is to fill the vacancies.
And if we have those applications, is there a plan for when that we're going to get those in front of us on the board agenda? Are we holding them for a specific reason if those applications have been received, and checking in with CAO Parker?
I think we were waiting for Director Buenaventura, or Chief Public Defender, you're quasi-director, until he got at least settled and started this process. The position allocation process has been very, it's been challenging, so we wanted to get that done. The position allocation is on for later today, and I think after that, he can start interviewing, and I think after that, once he gets his first employees in place, I think then we can start on that process. Because right now, there's nothing to discuss except, unless you tell me differently.
No, you're right, absolutely.
I would suggest, I don't want to throw a wrench in the wheel, but if you're already getting a report from LID, then to me, there's already something to share. And maybe at the worst case scenario, it's just shared with the board in a palatable way. Just here's a quarterly report of what's going on. All I know is we've got this big report. We've decided to make some changes in how we provide public defenders services to the people that need it. But we have yet to make any changes as far as how we're receiving information or how we know if changes are being made. And I think our goal is, obviously we want changes to be made, but things are still happening today, and I'm not aware of necessarily what's happening with those that are using public defender services. So as soon as we can get to that, rather sooner than later, my opinion, again, looking for the board for that support, I feel I'm still in the dark very much, but I have this report that tells me that things were not that great. And so getting a report to either tell me it's continuing the same or it's already changing, at least would alert me and let me know, so it's not just I'm stuck in the 2022 perspective, I'm getting the 2024 perspective.
Understood.
So, and again, don't want to direct anything
Right.
without board support.
But you're starting in June with
Right.
that, okay.
Yeah.
And so, and that's only a few months away. I think that's an appropriate time to have the committee up and running, appointed, ready to go.
Okay, I think so.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Do we have any other?
Well, I
feedback
think
on
there's, it sounds like this was a committee that was, and then it went dormant. So I think we may have some work to do, myself and Supervisor Crandall, being the two people that we know are on the committee that can actually get some stuff done. So if there's some moldy-oldy bylaws, if we need to take a look at the current composition and update it, we could start working on that now while you're still trying to build out your office, because populating a long dormant committee can be a challenge.
Sure.
And I'm encouraged to hear there are applications, but because it sounds like it's not a new creation, we may be inheriting some bylaws and some things that we need to familiarize ourselves with. So I'm not opposed to coming back in June. I'm not opposed to coming back next week to get started on figuring that out. So I guess I'll join the consensus for whatever you're seeking, but let's get on it.
I obviously don't want to push something that can't happen because there's a lack of information, then it's useless to just meet, but I'm definitely looking for that interaction so that the board can be made aware of what is going on so we can see the difference. So I'm okay with June. I'm just definitely, I was looking for a timeline because I see it there, there's a vacant place, but not necessarily a timeline for the oversight. And I think oversight is one of the best things that we can ensure continues and does its job.
Absolutely.
I can't spend too much time on it because I don't know enough about it, but I think the conflict issue is difficult for such a small community, and not certain how two lawyers can fulfill that continuously. Are there examples of regional public defender systems kind of sharing some of their lawyers, like let's say working with Mendocino County or working with Sonoma County? Would that also be something that could be a part of the plan if there is a continued issue of the conflict?
You know, I think I could look at that and see if there are regional, that on the, just hearing it makes sense. But let me look at that a little bit more and see if it would make sense for this county.
Okay. Appreciate your presentation. Any further comments or questions? Opening it up for the public. Any comments or questions regarding this? And I think that we are, I don't believe there's action to be taken on this.
No.
Just a presentation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
Bye-bye. And so we will go ahead and pause our meeting and come back at 1 p.m., and we shall return in open session.